Okay. Okay, can everyone hear me? Okay, let's do some tests here. Anyone hear me? Put yourself in the line. Let's do this. Ah, awesome. Awesome. We can hear. Cool, cool, cool. Okay. The big discussion / debate happened today. I've got my whiskey. I forgot to turn on my lights here, obviously. Here. All right. Nobody accused us of being organized here of ancient Egypt in the Bible. We are doing this on StreamYard for the first time, so if anyone wants to come into the chat and just talk, awesome. We've never done this before. We had actually planned this to be the after party after the big debate today, but I found out that through a miscommunication that it wasn't going to be live. That Sean McDowell was pre-recording it today and then going to be broadcasting it next week. So I figured we'll still have this little, live stream and just to test out the technology. So when we do go have our big after party next week, that maybe work out the kinks. Link to StreamYard. Okay, that's what we need, is the link to StreamYard. Let me find that. Where do I find that? How do I find that? Where is the link? Oh, is this the link? If this is the link... yes, Jack. Thank you very much for the pizza. We did have pizza tonight, and it was delicious. Absolutely delicious. I think that's the link. I hope that's the link. Huh? Yes. So, Jack, want to thank you very much for the pizza. It was just a really, really welcome thing after the stress of today, and it was a lot of stress. To add to the stress of ooh, we got our first here. Okay, let's get her in. We got Faye, so we're gonna add her in. Hey, how's it going?
It is going. We got it working.
We got it working. And no one is more shocked about this than I am. Oh, wow, it was a day. I will say this.
So I've heard.
Yeah, you got an insider's point of view here that the others didn't.
I did.
Boy, now I'm being told that you are very quiet here, so I don't know if there's a way I can edit your mic setting. Let's see if we can. Up your mic here. How's that? Can you give us an audio test?
Testing 1, 2.
That's sounding better to me.
Okay, I will check my
I'm gonna down. Now
I'll
you're
check
too
my
loud.
mic settings.
All right.
If I can remember where it is.
Yeah, your mic's fluctuating right now.
Okay.
Between real soft and real loud, so you might have it on auto.
I might. Let me... Is that any better?
A little loud, but I can adjust it down here, so don't worry about that.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
can,
it's probably my headset.
cool. I think this is pretty good now. Okay, we got another person on here. All right, let's add him in too. Okay. Hi Joshua.
Good evening.
How's it going?
I'm doing pretty. I'm actually feeling great. I just got back with a vacation with my girlfriend, so she and I are in a long distance relationship, and we've known each other for quite some time prior to dating. So I'm actually feeling excellent.
Cool. So you had a better day than I had.
Yeah. Sorry to hear you had a bad day, actually.
Well, you know, a day with Titus Kennedy is nothing but sunshine and butterflies.
Try this. Does this sound any better with my mic?
Yeah, it sounds great now.
Okay.
You sound really good.
It was settings in StreamYard.
Yeah, those auto settings are a killer.
This is very interesting. Glad to help work out some of these kinks.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you to Jack Ray who just donated us $100. Thank you so much for that super chat. And he says, "Here's a little something I hope helps with the stress." And I don't know if I can show this. Let's see if I can show this. Aha! The magic of StreamYard. Cool. To be honest, this is the first time I've used StreamYard in this way. I've never done it before. I've done everything through OBS in the past.
Didn't Rob use StreamYard once?
Oh, he's always used StreamYard.
Okay.
You know, when I had my first interview with him, he used StreamYard. So yeah, he's been using it for years. I mean, I'm sort of I'm the sort of guy that, you know, if you want to kill a fly, you use a nuclear weapon. You know, that's use a nuke to be sure to get rid of all the flies.
Yeah, I agree.
So for me, I like things that are overcomplicated. So for me, it was OBS everything. So I did everything with OBS for a very, very long time. Still do. I mean, I'm actually using OBS here under the cover. So yeah, I like OBS too. It's very versatile. It was real helpful today, I'll tell you that. I mean, there was so much shenanigans going on with this debate. We were not sure if we were going to be creatively edited. So one of the things we did was we both recorded it at the same time as had our virtual stream as well. So, you know, there was that we had the versatility here to do both, and that was really, really helpful. So, we got another super chat here from Allison Weir, sorry, for $4.99. Thank you very much for the super chat. Dr. Falk, are you ever going to write a book on Old Testament reliability? If so, will it be accessible to laymen? Okay, I can answer that second question first. Every book I do, I try to make accessible to laymen. Yes, I do have some desires to do some academic books, but most of the books I do are focused on lay readership, at least bringing very, very high scholarly topics down to the lay reader. Just because, frankly, I get my jollies off of taking, you know, topics that aren't supposed to be accessible and making it so ordinary people can understand it. I know it seems pretty twisted, but that's I like doing that. Now, whether or not I will ever write a book on Old Testament reliability, I don't know. Kenneth Kitchen has already done a really, really good book on that. Sooner or later that will get long in the tooth. At that point, I may consider it, given that I was Kitchen's last student. But I haven't made any decisions to that end. I do have books I want to write first. There is, I want to do a book on the Exodus, just a general book on the Exodus that includes the 10 plagues from an Egyptian perspective. The other book I really, really want to do is I have half started a book on chronology. That was actually geared towards the college level. So not a scholarly textbook, but a college level textbook on chronology. Because there is no good book on chronology out there. Everyone's sort of creating their own curriculum instead of having a reliable textbook they can use. And I had more than enough material. I mean, I was just like gathering hundreds of citations. So, if you've got that much material, you might as well make it a textbook. So, there are books I want to do. There's even some short books I want to do, that are like 50 pages. Kind of the same style like Piper does. He does these really short, tiny books, 50-page books, where he gets a lot packed in. But they're useful. I mean, yeah, Faye. I see Faye shaking her head here.
No. He can't take that level.
Publishers love those books. They absolutely adore them because they cost nothing to produce. They're almost all pure profit for the publisher. So, here's the thing. When you deal with publishers, it's like, okay, yeah, you are pushing now 250 pages. Ooh, how much is that going to cost us? The bean counters come out as soon as you start hitting 250 pages. It's like, my last book was under 250 pages, and they go, yeah, they were breaking a sweat with that.
So, who wants? Got a spoiler for how the video was editing?
Yes, I got lots of spoilers. Boy, oh boy. That's why I'm drinking whiskey.
Was it debating, discussing, or fist fighting?
It was somewhere between debating and fist fighting. It got pretty surly at some points. We both try to keep it civil to begin with, but it was pretty clear by about midway through that we were having difficulties really appreciating each other's position in a respectable way. He didn't much care for my hermeneutics. I didn't much care for his biblical literacy.
The shade of it all.
Hence the poll. All right, maybe we should. I am going to take this super chat here, and then I will discuss the poll, because the poll today was inspired by today's debate. Okay, I want to thank Visual Don here for a $50 super chat. Thank you so much for that super chat. He says, I really enjoyed your series on the 10 Commandments. Well, thank you very much. Very much appreciate that you enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to when you'll be able to complete the book on the 10 plagues. Yeah, the funding hasn't exactly been there for that, so we gotta follow the funding on this. That's just one of those things. Who knows? I might still get it a teaching position someday, and miracles happen. I don't know if after any of this debate, any school will want to touch me, but but they didn't really want to touch me before either. ABR had done a pretty good smear job on me to begin with, so I'm sure this probably didn't help that. Okay, we got a new person in on the live stream here. I'm going to try to add him. I don't know how many people I can add on this live stream, so we might be just keep racking people up. I don't know. So we got Tyler McKaylee here.
Yeah.
Welcome to Live Chat.
Hello.
How's it going?
Going pretty good.
Well, welcome to our very, very first, I don't know, what should we call this? A chat? A dialogue?
Roundtable discussion on Egyptology.
Well, it was more. Let me put it this way: it's more of a roundtable discussion on discussion than my debate earlier in the day. I don't think that really qualified as a discussion. Okay, well, let's talk about the poll. Okay, we'll end the poll here because I'm going to discuss it. Alrighty, and here. Now, the poll said, who were Japheth's adversaries in Judges 11? And we allowed cheating because, we don't expect you to know Judges 11 off the top of your head. However, we would have expected Titus Kennedy to know this off the top of his head, because his PhD dissertation was supposed to be on the conquest period in Israel. So you would think that somebody who supposed to know the conquest period, should be intimately familiar with the book of Judges and Joshua. You just think this, it's just, I might be a little crazy. I understand. I have unreasonable assumptions at times. Okay? And this was my unreasonable assumption. That when he pulled out Judges 11:26, saying that Israel had been in Arnon and the Heshbon for 300 years, that he would know that Jephthah was, his primary adversaries were the Ammonites. And 45% of you got this right. Awesome. He vigorously argued that the Amorites were the principal foe in Judges 11. So, after that, the debate kind of went sort of downhill. Once you sort of lose credibility on basic biblical literacy as a Bible scholar, serious debate sort of flies out the window. Okay, we got Rob from Cynodal Apologetics here too, and we will add him because I don't know how many people we can add. So we got a fourth person here. Hi, Rob.
I'm peeking up above.
You're peeking up, yes. You're smothered.
Hey,
Smothered.
Down under, woo.
There you go.
I'm capable of leaving if needed, since I'm just sitting here doing homework. If you're taking up too much space,
It's been too long, David. Too long.
It has been way too long, and I'm glad you joined us for this.
I got notified.
Oh wow! YouTube, you mean telling me YouTube notifications actually worked?
No.
I didn't think so.
I got a Discord message just in time, actually. I was about to leave for a surf, and then, yeah. And I'm just like, oh, quick,
Cool.
jump on.
It sounded like my husband got a hold of you then.
Yes, that's indeed.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, we actually have a fair amount of viewers tonight. Yes, we did. We started at 10:30 this morning. It was only supposed to be like 70 or 80 minutes.
So
It went to noon.
So like within the last hour or so.
Well, for us here, it's like the last 6 hours.
Ah, okay.
Okay. Just because of the time change. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was it was a very interesting debate. Not always in ways that I expected.
You ought to pin the StreamYard to
Pin the StreamYard to the top. What does it? Oh, the. Okay. Let me get that up there. Just a second. Where's the? Okay, I'll see it. Replace pin message. Okay. There we go. Yeah, I'm new to this whole StreamYard thing. First time doing it, so.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's it's been this has been a riot though. I mean, as I said, it was just. I mean, the debate was crazy. I mean, it was absolutely crazy. Yes, there was some mud slung.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, so
But
How
I
did
think
I know that was gonna happen?
But I think the big question here would be McDowell's reaction and his. Did he like what position did he hold before the debate, and did he change his mind after the debate?
he didn't say what his position was after the debate. But before the debate, he was an early dater. Now, let me take this super chat because we're about to cover this. So, Visual Dawn for £5. Thank you very much for the super chat. What was the debate you were talking about? Can I watch it somewhere? This was a debate between me and Titus Kennedy on Sean McDowell's channel. And it was on the date of the Exodus. Titus Kennedy takes an early date position. I take a late date position. And we were debating the merits of the arguments. Okay. It was I had understood that it was supposed to be live today, but it was just recorded today, and it will be on Sean McDowell's channel next week, according to Sean. So you haven't missed it. It just hasn't aired yet. Okay. So.
All the ironing out details need to be placed in for pleasurable viewing, and then.
Yeah, well, as I said, it was there had been already some shenanigans, so we were expecting some, not necessarily from Sean, but we were already expecting some dirty tricks from Titus. Basically, the agenda was put together by Titus.
But is Titus connected to the what's that group called? The
Associates for Biblical Research?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
He's not an associate with them, but he is really closely affiliated with them. He does work for them. He works at their excavation sites. He does public speaking for them. He's written articles for them. He recommends them.
Why didn't he write the 5 views on Exodus instead of Stripling?
That's a great
Because this is
question.
why I remember when I said in the super chat last time, like who's better, Stripling or Titus? Like, yeah.
Well, that's a really good question. I think part of it is that Stripling has more respect.
Okay.
Titus is newer. He's newer on the scene. I would say that Titus and Stripling are roughly comparable as far as their knowledge, which isn't very good. Okay. Stripling might know a bit more. He might know a bit more. But I think really he wasn't really nobody young was selected for the 5 Views book. Okay. They picked basically more the elder statesmen of the positions. So they picked Stripling for the early date, Hoffmeyer for the late date, Feynman for the Levite Exodus view, Handel, who shouldn't have even been in the book, in all honesty. To be honest, I think Handel should not have been in the book because it just
Okay.
no, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the five view books or 3 views or whichever, the X views books are supposed to be oriented to a more evangelical audience. Okay, they're not supposed to be skeptic versus Christian. Handel's an atheist. He's an out and out.
Recently, Counterpoints has been releasing more like atheists.
Yeah.
Coming in and, yeah.
Yeah, but the whole point of the series is that it is supposed to be, you know,
In-house debate. Yeah.
an in-house debate. And what happened here was that, you know, getting Handel in there, you had people who were split between trying to defend their position on the Exodus as far as when it dates versus is there an Exodus at all?
But
And
doesn't
those are
Handel
two
hold to-
separate... No, Handel does not hold to an Exodus. He's an atheist. He's now down to atheist.
No, but doesn't he say that there's like cultural memory of like, I think he says multiple exoduses or something like in other words, there's still
Well,
like
I mean,
irony,
he
still holds to the historicity of
he
some
hold-
form of-
No, he holds to no historicity of it. You know,
not
he
even
does...
some form of it?
Well, even if he does held to a cultural view,
Okay.
you know, even a cultural cultural memory view, you know, basically you can use that as a denial of the Exodus. You know, you can just say, "Oh, it was from the Hyksos," and that's basically what Handel's doing. Is basically saying, "Yeah, okay, it could have had come from the Hyksos Exodus, but that has nothing to do with Israelites."
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Um, 501 Mobius asked, did they have the documentary hypothesis in that book? Not really. The documentary hypothesis was not really discussed in that book. Handel broaches it, but that's about it. Oh, and Feynman. Feynman loves the Hawk. Documentary hypothesis. Okay, but you don't have to, I mean, and I think this is the problem, is because, you know, we had that split between is there an Exodus versus defending a particular view of the Exodus. That some of this debate got split. It's like fighting a war on two fronts. It's like fighting a war on two fronts. This is why I don't think, for example, like Hoffmeyer's case was terribly convincing in that book. Because he's fighting that war on two fronts. You know, Stripling isn't fighting that war on two fronts. He's just fighting the late date. You know, Stripling doesn't care about if he convinces anyone if there's an actual Exodus. So, you know,
but
no, he's focused.
Did you see Handel actually quote you in the 5 Years book?
Yeah, I did.
which is because he's responding to Stripling and your review of Stripling's work and.
Well, my review of Petrovich's work.
No, sorry, Petrovich's work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because Stripling heavily quotes Petrovich,
Yeah, but that's
which is
irony.
always a mistake. It's always a mistake. In fact, there's one point in today's debate where Kennedy doesn't say it outright, but he's actually quoting Petrovich. As like, okay, I know where that comes from. Good luck on that. Yeah, he tries to. He tries to at one point. Kennedy tries at one point to say, "Oh, Amenhotep II was so angry at the gods that he destroyed the idols." Like, Oh no. That's not the meaning of that stela. But it's an interpretation that was first, espoused by Petrovich.
So then this debate really boils down to, like, in this case, you're a professional Egyptologist, and he's just a Bible scholar, but of an associate for biblical research bend or something like.
Well, Titus Kennedy is a field archaeologist. He's a professional digger. Okay, so he's a field archaeologist.
Interpret hieroglyph, and he hasn't specialized.
Apparently, he said that he took hieroglyphics in Toronto, and when put to the test today, he didn't do very well. Okay, I put his hieroglyphic knowledge to the test today, and he failed it pretty bad. He couldn't tell the difference between Ramses and Ramosa. Now, if you read hieroglyphs, there's a huge difference between the two.
Yeah, I'm trying not to spoil it.
Yeah, I'm not trying to give away all of it either, but it was pretty embarrassing. Yeah, it was pretty embarrassing. He tried to say that the two names mean the same thing, and they don't. Essentially,
did he raise the issue? Oh wait, no, that's
he raised the issue.
So he raised it first.
He raised the issue.
Right.
Because one of the things about the you want to know more.
No, don't spoil it. Like I want to know why he raised it, and obviously that backtracks into the where the discussion was leading, and yeah.
I'll give you a hint. It's about the city of Ramses.
Exodus 2, would it be?
Exodus 1:11.
Exodus 1, that's right. Exodus 1:11. Yeah.
Yeah, it was about Exodus 1:11. And Ramses. And what the name means and where the name comes from. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was pretty cringe. It was pretty cringe. IP. Oh. IP. Did you destroy him?
Mike, join the stream. Come on. Full house.
Yeah, that's one way of doing it.
That would be telling. Hey, Mike, if you want to join in, we're welcome. We would love to have you here. Links up the top.
Now's the real time to use Scotch.
He joined.
I made it.
You made it. Awesome.
There we go.
So I'm when is this debate going to be out? I missed the beginning of this stream.
It's going to be out next week.
Awesome. This, for anyone who's watching and doesn't know, I'm particularly interested because Kennedy was the guy that helped me a little bit with research for my first Exodus documentary, which Falk destroyed, and then Falk helped me remake it within its current form. So I am very interested to see how this played out.
I don't think you'll be disappointed.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It was definitely more, as I said, more of a debate, broaching on barroom brawl than a discussion.
Yeah.
It got nasty at points. It got nasty at points. I didn't antagonize it. Wasn't me this time.
I cannot wait to see this debate. I'm very much. I was upset it wasn't going to be live today. I was all looking forward to it, and then you posted the other day that it was going to be recorded, and I was like,
Yeah.
that seems weird.
Yeah,
All
any
right.
particular reason?
Yeah, it seemed weird to all of us,
Okay.
and
Surprise.
it was a miscommunication as far as I can tell. So, you know, what's the old saying? Incompetence is indistinguishable from malfeasance. So, I think in this case it was just incompetence, probably mine. Okay.
How much are you willing to give away? Did he try to bring up Jephthah from Judges 11? I
Oh
believe?
yes, oh yes he did. That one is priceless. Priceless.
I love that one because Jephthah says, you know, they've been in the land for 300 years, but then he also says in the same breath that their god, the god of Ammon is Chemosh, which is just false.
It was better than that.
Oh boy.
What he said was better than that. He didn't even. It was. I couldn't believe this. I mean, this is the guy who's supposed to be the expert on the conquest. So Joshua and Judges. That's what he did his dissertation on. He's supposed to be the expert on this. He
Wait,
said,
Kennedy.
yes.
Oh.
Yeah, Kennedy did his.
Dissertation on like population changes in Canaan.
Well, he did, but population changes in Canaan during the Late Bronze Age. This is his foundation work for doing Joshua and Judges. The same way my ritual processional furniture is foundational work for Ark of the Covenant studies. Okay? So he should know this cold. When he told me today, I mean, I learned something about Joshua, Judges 11 that I never knew before. I mean, I learned today that Jephthah's primary adversary in Judges 11 was the Amorites.
What? That's not what it. That's not right. It's just that. There's.
And he was adamant about this.
No, it's.
Eh.
I'm just going.
I mean,
from memory.
it was like, I mean, I said, what? Are you sure about this? Because I said, I'm pretty sure that the Ammonites are the main adversaries, the sons of Ammon. He goes, oh, no. The Amorites are mentioned all throughout Judges 11. It was definitely the Amorites. And I said to him, did you read the passage? And that's sort of when things started going downhill.
Wait, would you say this was within, say, I don't know, the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes? Like,
Within
how
the
long
first
was
30 minutes.
Well, how long
So-
was the debate in its totality?
It was 90 minutes.
Oh, that's too short.
I just did a quick word search through Judges 11. The word Amorites comes up 4 times. Ammonites comes up 17 times.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems the Ammonites are a little bit more prominent just from a quick word search.
Just how about just reading the text?
Yeah.
How about just reading it? You know, I mean, last week on my live stream, I went on. I think it was "What's the Takeaway?" who asked me, you know, what evidence would you consider to be disqualifying for the Exodus? And I said, well, most of the time, I'm not dealing with that. I'm dealing with people who haven't read the book. Okay, that's what I'm dealing with most of the time is people who haven't read the book.
I'm sharing my comment, like a cornerstone commentary on Joshua. He's saying here, are you talking about Joshua 11 specifically?
Yeah, Joshua 11 specifically.
Yeah, so the commentary on verse 4, like, do you see the sharing icon thing in the...
Let's see here. I don't know how this works.
You mean Judges
Add
4,
to
not Joshua 4?
stream.
Oh wait, are you talking about Judges or Joshua?
Judges.
Judges 4, yeah.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Okay, wrong
Yeah.
one. Because
Yeah, after a time
this
the
particular
Ammonites made
scholar
war against
saying
Israel.
the Amorites certainly did not use chariots against Israel. Like, but this is about.
But we were talking here about Judges 11, is what we were talking about.
Okay,
Judges
okay.
11.
I'll go there. Well, okay. My bad. Yeah, in other words, when I saw that, I'm thinking, well, duh. There you go.
I mean, all you have to do is just a basic read of the text.
Did he? We talked a little bit about this about a month ago. He
Wow,
might
we
bring
have
up,
people bumping on here. Okay, I'm limited to 6 people, so
What's your thoughts on this, David? This is Judges 11.
we got 8 people on right now in the back studio.
I gotta leave in probably a little bit here, so like another 10
do
minutes or
I.
so. But
Well,
someone else
as
can
long
jump
as
in.
you're contributing to the conversation, fantastic. Hang on, as long as you want. But we want to keep the conversation going.
Remember
So-
what we were talking about a month ago about he could bring up the genealogies and chronicles, and you were talking about how one is like an honorific genealogy. I believe it's the one of starts in
First
the
Chronicles
book-
6.
That's it. Yes.
He brought that up,
Oh, he did. Oh, good.
and then he conceded the point.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you were pretty prepared on that, as like we were talking about, because
Yeah, he didn't even try to fight that one.
the Ephraimite, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't even try to fight that. He just said many people believe it, and many people believe what I believe.
Okay.
That almost sounds like circular reasoning on some level.
Yeah, maybe just a little.
I mean, you have an entire video on honorific genealogies, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a
For
really
those who
good
don't,
video.
for those in the audience who don't know what we're talking about, and like early daters will bring up like Chronicles, First Chronicles 6, and there's like a very long genealogy in there, and they're like, not all these generations could fit in between the time of David and the conquest. It's got to be like several 100 years, but in the middle there's Samuel's genealogy is right in there, and it's like but if you go to 1 Samuel chapter 1 verse 1, it says Samuel was an Ephraimite, and the genealogy in 1 Chronicles 6 is of I believe of the line of Levi. And so what the authors have did is they sort of put him in there as like an honorific genealogy. He's not actually descended from Levi, but he's given like that honorary position. And Dr. Falcon, if I messed anything up there, you can correct me, but it's kind of like
No, you
that.
got it right. Yeah, I mean it's a spliced genealogy. It starts with Levites and it ends with Ephraimites, and it got spliced around about the time of Zuph. Even I mean that's the last 8 generations right there where the splicing is all Ephraimite. And it's even worse because like the first 5 of their 19 generations, were alive at the time of the Exodus. So even their whole count is whacked. So how are you going to make this as sort of proof of the Exodus? I mean, other than to assert it is. And that's really what we're dealing with is assertions.
Yeah, I always found that strange when I first looked at it, but then the way you explained it, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess Samuel kind of is in there. And the way you look at it, if you you've not studied it in depth, you think like, wow, there's a lot of names in here. How can this fit with the late date? But once you realize Samuel and his genealogy are right in there, you're like, oh, okay, I see. So it doesn't really work the way they think.
Yeah. But this is what they do is they take evidence that they think can have a chronological application and anachronistically apply chronology to it. And chronology is really an anachronism. I mean, nobody prior to the time of Christ was thinking in chronology. These were nomadic people. Some of them were city dwellers, but still, they weren't thinking in how exactly do we calculate the distant past here? It wasn't in their sphere of thought.
And of course, they use a Gregorian calendar.
Of course, Gregorian calendar all the way, because the ancient people had scientific accuracy.
Asking people why they're using 600 BC.
Yeah, exactly.
What happens once we get to 0? Oh, buddy, just wait for it. Oh.
That's a good one.
So I searched Amorite. It only occurs one time, according to a commentary. No, not in the passage, but on the word Amorite occurs one time with respect to Judges 11, with respect to verse 13, and it's Lawson G. Stone. I don't know if you can see the. I'm sharing the screen on that. Because he says here, I'll read it out. He says, "The king of Ammon rightly described his territory from north to south, but he could not rightly claim the territory all the way west to the Jordan, since that had been controlled by the Amorites, and before them, apparently the Moabites. In fact, a complex history of conquest had made this territory contested." So Numbers 21, Joshua 13. "The king of Ammon was apparently asserting an earlier claim based on a merging of Ammonite ambitions and earlier Moabite claims." So, yeah, like, this in itself, like, why would he say this is about Amorites? A straightforward commentary like this just
Oh, I can turn the
says
volume up.
otherwise.
Hey, Rob, I'm just going to turn your volume up here.
Oh, is it low?
Oh, we're getting some complaints that it's low. All right, I turned it up for you.
Okay.
Is that better?
How about I make it 200? Is that better now?
Is it better? Okay, it's better.
Yeah, so
Okay.
so Lawson Stone here is basically saying that he's giving like a geographical sort of history in regards to verse 13, and clearly the one time Amorite, the term Amorite appears is just more like a comment, like a passing comment.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to do with Amorites in the passage.
Well, we do find actually Amorites, the Amorite kingdom of Amuru, in the Amarna letters. They're distributed from the kingdom expands from Byblos essentially, all the way to east of the Arnon. So these are the same Amorites that took the territory from Ammon. And they were very successful in the 15th century, in the 14th century. Very successful. In fact, they're the ones that are in the Amarna letters. They're hiring the Hapiru as mercenaries. 75% of the references of the Hapiru in the Amarna letters are by the kings of Amuru, using them as mercenaries in their fight against the city of Byblos in Lebanon. But these are the same Amorites that the Israelites are going to fight when they cross the Heshbon. They're the same guys that they fight against the Heshbon, and even to some extent, the kings of Hatzor are part of that Amorite confederacy. But all of this in Judges 11 is prologue. The mention of the Amorites it's a historical prologue to what was basically Jephthah's justification for why he didn't do wrong to the sons of Ammon.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's not the Amorites are not the antagonists here. They're backstory and part of Jephthah's
backstory. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna take off here shortly, but
all right,
Dr. Polk, I'll be at ETS probably I think it's a week from now. And
I wish I
believe
could be there.
I know, that'd be great. But Stripling and Kennedy, I think, will be there. I thought about trying to confront them because Stripling is going to be talking about his great find that we're still skeptical of. His whole find on Mountain of Ball.
Oh, that thing's just That thing is just falling apart.
Yeah.
With that Jerusalem tablet that Galil tried to foist on everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It has come out since then that that contrary to what Stripling said at the announcement, the opinions between Galil, Stripling, and even Vanderveen weren't a consensus.
Oh no.
Yeah, because you remember that press conference? Remember that press conference? He tried to say that everyone was unanimous. Everyone had the same opinion about the inscription. Well, since that Jerusalem tablet got produced or was revealed by Galil, now everyone's saying, well, we never agreed with anyone to begin with. I don't know what you're saying about agreement. Agreement? What agreement? We didn't agree on anything.
Oh boy, yeah. I'm really glad
it's falling to pieces. It's falling to pieces right in front of our eyes.
That's unfortunate. Yeah. Well, I may go to one of their talks and listen in, see what happens. I'm sure they're still going to be trying to promote it, but who knows?
Well, you can expect very, very interesting things from the NAAS. I can assure you of that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Interesting is not a good word.
So overall with the debate, did he bring up any evidence? Did he try to that was that you didn't have a chance to counter anything like that, or was it all pretty much just?
Most of it was pretty standard stuff.
Yeah.
There were a few things I didn't expect because I didn't think he would go there. He brought up Petrovich's stela of smashing idols.
Oh.
I did not think he would go there.
Didn't Petrovich just recently publish stuff about that? Or was that...
It's in his book.
Okay. Maybe that's what I'm thinking it's from.
But he had written a paper on it.
Yeah. By the way, the cover of Petrovich's book, I don't even know where he got that from. I'm pretty sure it's an Egyptian Halloween costume.
I'm sure it is.
And you just you're looking at it going, this is how Egyptians dress in Hollywood, not how ancient Egyptians dressed. And I knew that, and I'm a layman when it comes to this. And I was like, who did this cover and approved it? Wow.
You want to know what I love? I want to know what I love about this book? Stripling quotes it in his 5 views essay, and he ascribed it at the time to Carta. Carta wouldn't touch it. It was he ended up having to self-publish it through a creationist press, New Creation Press.
That says a lot right there.
It does say a lot right there, doesn't it? Yeah. It's bad enough you have to publish through a creationist press. It's even worse when you have to self-publish through a creationist press.
Oh, gosh. Oh, no. I'm trying not to be triggered by, who, the younger creationists. No offense to any younger creationists, but...
It's desperate.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
That's just... Oh my gosh. I don't even know where to begin with that. It was just... Yeah, okay. Self-publish or do the creationist press? Don't do both.
And the book is still getting a lot of errors. There's still a lot, he's still making the trying to say that like Avaris was abandoned during the reign of Amenhotep II. He's still trying to push that, even though.
Oh yeah,
You know,
he doubles down on everything.
Yeah, it's like you pointed out to me. It's like when you read B-Tech in context, that's not what he's saying. B-Tech is not saying this at all.
No, in fact, if you look at his book his article in the Journal of Egyptian Interconnections, there's an editorial warning at the very end of it, basically saying that B-Doc doesn't agree with anything in this article.
Can you show?
I don't know if I can show it, but let's see here.
Just before Mike goes as well, you know how like through proxy I'm gonna like mention David's name here, like in practically the opening page or like the first couple of pages of Fawkes's Ark of the Covenant book. What also remember like so behind the scenes, IP and myself, we were also like chatting about his initial Exodus video and the timing and IP knows I was actually on the fence, and I was actually telling him I'm on the fence, but here's some possible defenses for the early date, but at the same time I'm intrigued by the late date. And the one thing, and then obviously when Dr. Falk reviewed IP's video, and then that's how we got involved, became friends. I brought Dr. Falk on my channel as well. The one thing that out of all details, one thing that really made me go, what? Was when Dr. Falk said, the late date is actually the conservative view, and the early date is actually the non-conservative / possible critic view, like in other words, the Wellhausen sort of liberal critical view. But for some reason, I mean, maybe there is a reason, but it's switched where you have the conservatives, like say the good old Gleason Archer and all those guys that held to the early date. I think that's something that needs to be brought up, because that was like a mind, and you mentioned this even in your Ark of the Covenant book, like in a footnote, literally within the first 5 pages, you mentioned this. Giving like a historical layout, but obviously in sort of like footnote style, and is Titus aware of that?
He is now.
So you mentioned it. Did he actually mention it in the debate?
It was actually mentioned in the debate.
Okay, good. Because I think
John McDowell asked basically, well, what? This might be outside of your guys' field of expertise, but what is the history of this debate? David, why don't you answer this question?
Wow, yeah, okay.
Gladly.
Because that threw me, that was like a total curveball that just threw me off when I first got to know you, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, obviously I'm aiming for a conservative view of the Bible. I always have, but at the same time looking at it through a critical lens, or like like an academic sort of lens, not just blindly believing it. And then when you said, yeah, I'm evangelical, conservative, and late date actually was always the case, even in the early church. It's like, what? Like, wow. I just didn't know that. And
well, part of it was that again, it didn't matter that much because there wasn't a hard view of chronology. One of the things we have to realize that when the first chronologies were being cobbled together in the early Christian era, and it wasn't just Christians doing this, it was also Jews and Greeks, etc., that they didn't always have a good understanding of the past. Like, for example, the Seder Alom Rabbah. I know this is one of the favorite things of the early daters, but it's a terrible source of history. Absolutely awful. It ascribes 50 years to the Persian period. Now, the Persian period is more like 250 years. So there are times when some of these early chronologies are off by fabulous amounts. So we have to take that into consideration, and this is one of the reasons why, we trust guys like Josephus for contemporary history, but we don't trust them for ancient history. They're just not good at ancient history. As Titus found out today.
Mm-hmm.
He found out that Josephus was not so reliable.
But did he concede any of your argumentations?
Well, that was a strange thing. Very, very strange thing. Sometimes he did. He would just say, "Yeah, some people believe that." I wouldn't make that a primary argument. Well, then why'd you bring it up?
Do you think then this early date sort of schema is in some weird way connected to like Ussher's creation chronology, like to try and fit within that 6,000-year-old mold?
Not really.
Because I'm noticing young Earth creationists seem to try and have early date Exodus with that.
I was just about to say that a lot of the young Earthers I've talked to, a lot of them are really married to like the David Rahl sort of interpretation of things.
Oh, that's different.
Yeah, and the reason it has to be is because they need to get Egyptian chronology further up in time, so they have time for like the flood and Tower of Babel. So they David Rahl moves everything up by a couple hundred years. So they're like, oh, perfect. We need all the time we can get.
Yeah. Ussher's a little different. Okay, we have to understand where Ussher is coming from. Ussher is basically taking Joseph Scaliger's chronology, which is based on Anno Mundi dating, and he's converting it to Anno Domini dating scheme. The problem with Ussher's dating which is the same as Scaliger's, which is it starts with 4004 BC. They didn't have an epoch date to basically hang any sort of chronology on. So what they did was they took the medieval view of creation. Medieval view is 4,000 years before Christ, because everything happens in clean, neat 1,000-year blocks. And Christ was born in 4 BC. So, go back 4,000, you get 4,004. Creation! And then Ussher starts from that 4004 BC and moves forward later in time. So he's going it in the opposite direction of, say, more contemporary early daters, which is why he ends up an Exodus date at around 1497, not 1446. It's because he's starting from a different point. Whereas modern early daters will start with the Solomon's Temple of 966, 967 BC, and then add 480 years going back in time. Now, one of the things with Ussher's chronology and how it did influence, say, the acceptance of James Orr's early date is that it came out around the same time, or I should say it was mass published in the Schofield Bible.
Ooh.
Schofield Bible came out roughly the same time as James Orr's Theology. So the two fed on each other. James Orr was a vehement opponent of liberal scholarship. So he was against the documented hypothesis, all views of liberal scholarship, very traditional reader of the Bible, except for this one little new theory, which happened to be the early date of the Exodus. Okay.
Just I'm gonna take off, everyone. I gotta go.
It's good to see you, Michael.
Yeah,
glad you could join us tonight.
Of course, yeah. We're really looking forward to seeing the debate. Hope to see you soon. So.
All right, take it easy.
Take it easy.
Unedited,
Touch,
hopefully,
man.
yes. Yeah, so you got this sort of synergism happening between James Orr and his speaking tour, which was all across the United States, and the Schofield Bible. But the two have actually nothing in common as far as their approaches to dating. Or even who was king at the Exodus. I mean, just they had no relation other than just vague similarity.
You know what? Let's get Faye to debate Titus next time.
Titus has no chance.
Yeah, get the comedic to yeah.
With the same outfit and everything.
Well, that was, I will say it was very underwhelming today.
I could feel it.
There were things I did not expect.
Were there moments where McDowell was asking you more of the questions? Like in a certain, like, you know how you can tell when a moderator is slightly biased?
Yes,
Yeah.
there was a slight bias here. McDowell at one point threw Kennedy a lifeline.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
He threw him a lifeline. And Titus promptly threw it back.
Ooh. Like, that's not going to help me. Yeah.
Yep.
It's like a tag team
Yep.
moment.
And when you see that happening, you will know exactly what that was. You know, where Titus tries to clarify our views, giving his view, Kenny's view, the best, most generous reading. And I said, Kennedy, do you really believe that? Oh, no. I believe in the literal 480 years.
You know, one thing about McDowell, I appreciate his ministry. Like, initially, he had a ministry for youth and like a young Christian apologetics sort of thing. His dad, obviously, quite well known. I remember him on the TBN show with Hugh Ross debating Ken Ham, and he defended Hugh Ross. So that communicates to me that he's sensitive to, say, like, standard scientific approaches, and in this case Hugh Ross saying, look, we should be like, I'm not trying to like push, say, Big Bang even in this discussion, but at least Hugh Ross, an astronomer, is saying we should be rejoicing that something like a Big Bang model exists, because he's able to use it as an evangelistic tool. But what confuses me about McDowell is that, especially in his recent book that he co-authored with his dad, I forgot the title of it, but something like Answering All the Tough Questions or something like that. It's his approach is such that it's like a buffet of, okay, here are all the argumentations out there. I'm not going to carefully digest the pros and cons. I'm just gonna just grab what's out there, mash it into this book, and hopefully your faith won't be too challenged. Like, here's all the relevant answers, and like, and that criticism sounds a bit, I know it sounds a bit simplistic, but you sort of have to read enough of what the McDowells do, which then cause a lot of the careful readers in the atheistic community to make basically a mockery, and it's unfortunate. So that's, again, I consider McDowell a brother in Christ and all that. I consider his approach, like, he is trying. There's no disingenuity in overall in his approach, But when it comes to these very like niche areas, like in this case, when he said, yeah, he holds an early date. But I just wish he would hold on to it in the sense that like how I held on to it, where I'm like, look, I'm happy to have my mind changed, because yes, it's not my field, or it's not my field of interest at the time, and when you and I first met, and I was reading literature that I thought I would consider to be probably the best I could find, because I'm not a specialist in the field. So, for example, when I keep bringing up Gleason Archer, like, because he's, well known, there is that sense of him having a certain authority, and with the lexicon stuff, and so I thought, okay, early date is reasonable. Here's this guy, he makes lengthy arguments for it. But like how I approach it, I'm like, look, but at the same time, I'm open. I am genuinely open for having my mind changed, and but it sounds like McDowell didn't have that approach, but that's unfortunate.
Well, I think
I'm trying to nuance it, in that sense. Yeah.
I think McDowell struggles to be fair. Okay, and he tries. I mean, he makes a very valiant effort to be fair. He also tries to be conciliatory too. He kind of told us, keep it clear, keep it respectful. Well,
It's charity and
the charity and clarity. Okay, charity and clarity was his two buzzwords. I think we better achieve clarity than charity, but but at the same time too, though, I think McDowell is under a lot of pressure. Okay. He is a front face for Biola. And if you know anything about how large theological colleges work, they survive by the donations of the octogenarians. Okay? If you torque off the octogenarians, then you are out in the cold. And I already think he's had a few reminders that, he's sort of been skirting the line with what the octogenarians want.
He's done, his specialty is actually New Testament martyrdom, or post-New Testament martyrdom, and then there's critical scholars like Candida Moss, who's written that there's no such thing, it's all a myth, the so-called martyrdom of the apostles, but his dissertation was actually responding to Moss's book, and he attained his PhD through that, and I read it, and it's pretty well done. So McDowell is not a slouch. He actually did do a viable effort.
Yeah.
But you're right. I didn't think of that. But then this is where I don't want to throw him under the bus. I don't want to presume.
Oh no, I don't think there's any necessity here to throw him under the bus.
But that was your point, even in our prior discussions, where you are not accepted, so to speak. Because again, it comes down to this certain, I don't know, it's like a weird bias. You're married to an early date, and it's like gospel truth, and otherwise the gospel breaks down if you go to a late date. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, ABR has been preaching its stuff, going church to church, seminary to seminary, denomination to denomination, for over 60 years. Okay? Where are the young men that they communicated to 60 years ago? They're at the head of their churches. They're at the head of their denominations. They're at the head of their Bible colleges. They're also some of them are very, very wealthy and funding said Bible colleges. Okay? while the late date proponents were, going through academia, the early date supporters were trying to get grassroots support. They took a very missionary approach to all of this. So they were affecting people in the pews, people in places of wealth and power and influence. They didn't care about the academic debate. They couldn't win that anyway. They couldn't win the academic debate. So they went for hearts and minds instead. This is why we're sort of in the situation we are now. This is why guys like me can't get jobs in, conservative Christian theologians like me can't get jobs in conservative Christian seminaries.
But then, the point then that I'm raising is, what would McDowell say if you told McDowell, hey, the late date is actually the conservative view, or was always the conservative view until...
Let me put it this way. I think he got that message today. I'm not sure that's going to make a difference.
Because that may, in his mind, he may be thinking, oh, maybe it's a weird conspiracy theory and there's some sort of mix around going on.
Well, even if it's true, even if it is true, the perception is that it isn't. The broader perception is that this is the liberal view, the compromiser view, the view of the devil.
The dreaded liberal view.
Sorry?
I said the dreaded liberal view.
I mean, you should.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Despite not saying anything, I have to go. So I just want to say it was a pleasure being here. It was a pleasure.
Well, I'm glad you joined us.
I'm glad to have talked to everyone here. This was a very, very interesting. Have a good night, guys.
Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us, and you have a great night.
You too. Stay safe.
You too. Oh yeah, you should see my hate mail when it comes. I mean, that little short I did. I mean, most people won't even notice it, but the little short I did on Ron Wyatt. Oh my gosh!
Really? Like the defenders of Ron Wyatt?
Oh, I get like tons of hate mail from that. Almost every other day, I get a nasty gram from a Ron Wyatt supporter. In fact, I'm thinking of doing a special where I just read out my hate mail.
I would be so down for that.
I actually want that. I second phase one. Ron White special edition hate mail.
I need a dramatic, the most dramatic reading.
And before you do any reading, just play a clip, and I'll send you the clip of Ron Wyatt saying that he found the blood of Jesus. He did a DNA analysis of the blood and said that Jesus had one Y chromosome. Like, that would be one hell of a weird mutated Jesus, but... And then once you play that clip, then go into the hate mail, like.
But yeah, I've been very tempted to do a hate mail special just because, some of this stuff is really pretty, wow,
In the comment section.
vitriolic. I mean, really vitriolic. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's some of this stuff is really over the top. It's like, are you a Christian? I mean, I've been called like the son of the devil. It's just like, really? Rate that high?
And there's also like another cult documentary that maybe it's like a spiritual successor to Ron Wyatt, is the Mountain of Fire documentary. I don't know if you're aware of that one.
I haven't gotten nothing from them.
Laws, where they actually show so-called, or you can see the cow iconography, or the cow drawing on the stone, and
the Chibble,
and then you see the big rock thing that split Yeah, that documentary is called the Mountain of Fire. I think it's its name.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't get much from that crowd, even though I have touched on that. I have touched on the whole Jebel Allah's debate. I don't get much from them, but the Ron Wyatt people, oh my gosh, they just went crazy. They just went nuts. I still get some hate mail from atheists.
Yeah, but
The
that's
early
a,
date-
you know, that's a given.
That's a given.
Yeah.
The atheists, but I don't get half as much from the atheists as I do from the Ron Wyatt supporters. They are.
What about the Rolls?
I don't even get as much from David Rolls beyond
Wow,
his stuff.
okay.
So
What?
I get a few
Yeah.
hate mails here and there from Rolls supporters, but not very many. Not as many as I used to. I used to get a lot more. But today it's the Ron Wyatt guys. They're just. I mean, they've been flooding my inbox.
Maybe his name is still alive because Ken Hovind has passed the 200,000 subscriber mark on his YouTube channel. And
I don't
as
know
of late,
why.
he still mentions Ron Wyatt in his streams. So, like, my good friend Ron Wyatt, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, I don't know what the attraction is to. I mean, it's almost. He's almost taken on the persona of a prophetic personality. So it's I get a lot of the comments seem to be along the lines of, well, I know who Ron Wyatt is. He was a true voice from God. You're defying God's will. Repent now, otherwise you're going to hell for speaking against the word of Ron.
I guess it's all in the name, right? It sounds unique.
I don't know.
Like those Coast to Coast AM sort of conspiracy radio shows and. Yeah.
I mean, I think about those Coast to Coast AM radio shows, and I think, gosh, those guys have got a nice gig. Even if you get some hate mail, you just hit the silence button and they're gone.
Yeah.
No, but it's pretty crazy, some of the stuff I get from the Ron Wyatt guys. They're just the vampire video had a few neo-pagans going crazy.
I haven't watched it yet. No spoilers. I'm sorry. I'll work on it. I promise. I will type up a review.
Ooh.
Oh, and if you're interested in a very brief update on the Petro stuff.
Oh, please.
Nothing to worry about. So it ended up with.
Now I'm worried.
Oh, I haven't heard anything in 4 months, and he's gone practically into hiding, because the county of Tanaha sent him a lawyer's letter, not related to me whatsoever. Like, he's got a lot of issues behind the scenes that people are coming at him now, and the so-called building that he was going after, that's been bought by, guess what? Okay, this is the latest, and this made me just go, okay, my work's done here. This is definitely God having a sense of humor. So he's going after this particular building. It's like a gyro data building. It's this huge industrial building for his so-called final house and temple and all that. And he was promising this back when you and I were critiquing his works, like a whole year now. And he kept promising, we'll enter this building. 5 days ago, Gyro Data was bought by an oil company the president of that oil company, his first name is Jesus. Jesus Lamas. That's his full name.
I love it.
And but here's the icing on the cake. Petro, in his mystery interpretation, in his Gnostic interpretations, he's always fixated on the virgins and the oil. I think it's in Matthew 25, the 10 virgins and the oil, and he keeps interpreting the oil to mean like basically the mysteries. You have to buy oil to get this mystery. Okay. So here's a guy named Jesus. He runs an oil company. And he buys the one thing Petro is after to vindicate his prophethood. And there you go. So, and there are people that's been leaving even more since, and I haven't heard anything in the legal sense. And
Poetic justice.
It's like, talk about, God having a sense of humor. It's like,
oh yes.
Yeah.
I was just about to say. The divine have a sense of humor that we cannot comprehend.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So.
Definitely. Yeah.
So yeah, nothing to worry about, and I think my job, it was a season. I put that into God's hands.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, there was a tough moment, but I just thought I'll leave it in His hands. And
you know what? Yeah. All ministries are for a season. All of them. Every ministry has its season. It's when you try to extend it beyond its season, then it becomes a monument to a man rather than an offering to God.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great. It's good that you're recognizing that ministry is a season. Who knows how long this YouTube thing is going to last? Susan could crack down on us tomorrow, and that'd be the end of it. It wouldn't be the first time something like this happened.
Actually, you see this? That's a very good point that you're saying that, because I'm going through Daniel at the moment, and each chapter you're jumping decades in the future, and it's always like a season for, like, say, Nebuchadnezzar, then Belshazzar, then Darius the Mede.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To everything there is a season. Ecclesiastes.
That was what I was. That's
what I was
thinking. Yep.
Yeah.
That was the quote. I was like, who said the quote?
Did you see Jack Race? Too much seasoning spoils.
I'll post that up. Jack Ray said, too much seasoning spoils the meat. Yeah. But you know what? A lot of seasoning on spiced beef. Oh, that's good stuff. But that's a whole different sort of old world kind of curing of meat.
Mm-hmm.
But that uses a ton of spices. It's one of my mother's recipes, the spiced beef. Basically, you take a big piece of raw, beef, stick it in a crock pot, and just dump a whole bunch of salt and spices and cover it with water, and the thing will go moldy sometime in the 3rd or 4th millennia. Stuff will last through the apocalypse. I mean, it's... But boy, did it taste good.
I'll make sure to add that to your burial goods.
Hey, if you're talking burial goods, make sure you add some good Ela whiskey and Indian smoked salmon. Not that Scottish lock stuff.
Ooh.
Indian smoked.
All right.
If it isn't like leather, it's not smoked salmon.
Only the best.
Hey, it has to be. It can't be one of those things that you need to refrigerate. I mean, we are talking grave goods after all.
I gotta laugh.
The Egyptians did this. Salted meat. Mm-hmm. That stuff lasted forever. It was essentially beef jerky. But that stuff, that Indian smoked salmon is so good. Oh my gosh. Does not require refrigeration either. Very, very good stuff. But it's like leather. Like leather. Delicious. Hard to get, though.
Back to theology.
Back to theological concerns. My wife is reminding me that I should
Hey,
not
look.
turn this into a food critic show.
This can turn theological if you're talking about Leviathan meat at the marriage supper.
Leviathan meat at the marriage supper.
Because that's according to Second Temple eschatology. And we better try your mother's recipe for that thing, right?
Oh wow, yes. Well, that's an interesting question from Patui. Do we get any revisionist Amarna letters interpretations in the debate? No, we didn't. The Marna letters were mentioned for those who are doing our bingo cards. You'll be happy about that. Yes, we did publish a bingo card. We had certain...
Is Rob know about?
Did I lose some audio? Can you guys still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's probably just then... I think Rob muted himself. Yeah, he did.
Oh,
I did.
I did.
I got used to your background noise. I thought we lost sound as soon as you went mute.
Oh! Okay, my bad. Like, is the background noise bad?
It's noticeable. It's not bad. It's not bad, but...
How about now?
But now it's gone.
Quiet.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's
'Cause
quiet.
now I'm using
Yeah,
like
but
a
it was
mic
so
software.
quiet. It was so quiet for a moment. I thought we lost sound.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah, I'm still, this whole StreamYard thing is a little bit. It's unpredictable. Like there are moments where the sound is really good, and then yeah.
Yeah, it's got its jankiness. It's definitely got its jankiness.
Okay.
But we didn't. Getting back to the question, however, we didn't get any revisionist in Amarna letter interpretations in the debate. We barely touched on the Amarna letters. I think I quoted the Amarna letters a couple times, and that's. But I didn't do it. I did it in terms of chronology, not in the respect of, say, what was happening in the in Canaan at the time. So there wasn't any sort of opportunity there for, say, revisionist interpretations. Now there were other weird interpretations. Some interpretations I would not have expected a professional field archaeologist to have actually done. But I also think too that at this point they're behind a rock and a hard place. So I'm not sure they could have resorted to much else and still cling to their theory. And I think any debate has its serious objections. And then once you get past the serious objections, you start entertaining the not serious objections. I think we're at the phase of this debate where we're at the not serious objections. So, Ingo Samuel says, I think it's a lost cause at this point, honestly. Yeah. If it wasn't for the fact that these people still held a lot of influence. They still hold incredible amounts of influence. If it wasn't for the fact they held so much influence, I wouldn't bother to debate this. I think the position is a joke. And it's not a very good joke. At least I'm not laughing. At least not at the joke. At them sometimes, but not at the joke. Yeah,
but
so
then it comes it comes down to, this is where I start to get frustrated with maybe frustration with welcome to the reality of human psychology. I don't know how else to put it, but cognitive dissonance kicking in, and people, they just don't, like, you're married to maybe, like, not so much a hypothetical or like a theory, but like a belief, and that this is a hill to die on sort of thing.
oh yeah.
Like, in other words, my frustration is, why should it be that instead of, and my wish is that I would rather it be something like exchanging. Like, in other words, imagine if Titus and you exchange ideas, and like Titus goes, "Hey, David, if there's any data points that, where my model can sort of improve, and then I have maybe some things to share from my field to, to benefit you, like, how much better would that world be? Because at the end of the day, aren't you both brothers in Christ? Like, this is my frustration with young creationists. They consider me literally living in sin. I kid you not. I've had young creationists tell me I'm living in sin for holding to evolution. It's like,
Well, I've been
and I'm
told
not
that I am.
calling them living in sin for being young creationists.
Well, they've told me that I'm worse than an atheist. I'm worse than an atheist.
What's
But-
worse than
but-
atheism?
But when you look at, like, in the 5 U's book, Hoffmeyer, which is basically your position, I mean, he does such brilliant work in a very, very good evangelistic strain.
Mm-hmm.
And he's much more respected by Handel than, say, when Handel looks at Stripling. Like, that's the irony, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I remember on one of McDowell's streams with Michael Jones, where they talk about the 13th century Exodus. There was one person in the side chat that basically accused Michael Jones of being Darth Vader, and that I was his Palpatine. And they meant it as a
Lord
criticism.
Vader, do you hear me? Yes, master. Is Padme alive? In your anger, you killed her. Oh, God.
They didn't mean it as a compliment, but I mean, if you're gonna accuse the guy of something, not sure that's the best comparison.
Yeah, I think maybe they're thinking of that line where Palpatine
Have
tells
the
Anakin.
Imperial March at her wedding.
Yeah, when Palpatine tells Anakin, the Sith and the Jedi are similar in every way. Like, so, yeah.
I feel the hate flow through you.
And then the famous "do it."
Do it. Do it. All is proceeding as I have foreseen it.
Yeah, Hoffmeyer is like, yeah, he's the ultimate.
He's Darth
Sith Lord in
Plagueis.
5 Years. Oh yeah, yeah. No, he goes. He's the ancient. He goes back to Raven, like,
Kitchen.
yeah,
That's Kitchen.
Ooh.
Oh no, okay, Kitchen. Yes, okay, yeah.
Ooh.
The old
Bring
Republic
reckoning on this one.
Sith. Yeah,
Kitchen's the old Republic Sith.
yeah. Yeah. I think it's pronounced Raven, right? Raven.
I've heard Revan.
Yeah, Revan.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kitchen's Darth Revan. Hoffmeyer's Darth Plagueis. I'm Darth Sidious. and he's Darth Vader. Makes perfect sense.
Wait, then who becomes Kylo Ren?
Ro-
Mm.
Oh,
And
we don't talk about Kylo Ren.
That's an ironic good
MRV
point.
is your clone from episode 9.
He makes all the Sith look bad. I'm the clone. I'm what's his name? Oh gosh, Snoke.
Snoke!
Yeah.
You're Snoke.
I never got that character.
Nobody
Yeah.
did because they put nothing into it.
Jar Jar.
Hey, Jar Jar would make one heck of a Sith Lord.
Right? Right?
Yes, yes, he would make an incredible Sith Lord.
Unassuming. He would have been better than Palpatine.
Oh, much better
There's an
than Palpatine.
Someone's actually done an entire like a critical review showing Jar Jar behind the scenes working the whole plot. It's
Yep.
incredible.
It is incredible. Yes,
Like
I've seen it.
even little scenes where he ducks just at the right time when a lightsaber, I think something like swings by and it shows like he's got force sensitivity just by his ducking and
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yep, he moves and the whole truck flips over. Tell me there's no
Yep.
force behind that.
all in the name of like trolling. Like that's the ultimate force power, right? Like he runs and avoids his big blue balls just conveniently pretending he's scared.
As I said before, incompetence is indistinguishable from malfeasance. We've assumed Jar Jar's incompetent. Maybe he's evil.
Yeah.
Could be.
Mm.
Oh, jeez.
Thanks. Oh boy. Well, I'll tell you, there wasn't much force lightning happening in today's debate. Oof. Ugh. Not at least by the
Okay.
ABR side.
Maybe a more evangelistic question, or when I mean that, what I'm saying is, encouragement for, say, the body of Christ,
Mhm.
right? Do you think Christians, regardless of their position, would find some sort of benefit, but from a fellowship, gospel edifying? Do you think was there any in the debate, or was it just focusing on just the one thing and not really?
Well, that's going to be hard to say, honestly.
Because the crowd needs to know you're not some, like, all those messages you've been getting, like you're a
Part of the
Christian.
problem was the way the debate was structured. Now, unfortunately, Titus Kennedy came up with the structure. Okay, it's Titus
Okay.
Kennedy's structure for this debate. Every time I tried to change it, Titus put up a hissy fit, and we just kind of went back to what it was. So I only got one change in that structure. So, unfortunately, I think it could have been more. I think it could have been a lot more than what it was. Like, for example, we weren't really introduced, in the debate. It was basically, here's an archaeologist. who teaches at Biola. He represents the early date. Here's the Egyptologist. He represents the date, debate, late date. Let's talk about the Bible now. So that was sort of the.
I mean,
so there wasn't any opportunity for opening comments.
Yeah, and like introducing, like, you know, you run this channel, obviously educating the public about Egypt, but at the same time advocating that, look, I'm a conservative Christian. Was there any New Testament engagement in the debate, or was it mostly Old?
Very little. Very little. Most of it was Old Testament. I mean, this is an Old Testament debate, fundamentally.
Sure. But I'm thinking of, you know, the odd remarks, or the odd, like in Acts, when Stephen or Paul, when they mentioned chronological markers about...
We talked briefly about, say, the 450 years in Acts.
Hmm.
You know, and he tried to... It was basically him trying to say, well, you know, you have 450 years. This confirms the extended, long sojourn in Exodus. You know, when the sojourn is really less than 350 years.
Hmm.
Because he doesn't include Canaan in that. So there wasn't really much of an opportunity to talk about, say, things such as what are the New Testament ramifications of all this? What does this mean for salvation history? Where does this go as far as what does it mean for discipleship, or you know, say, practical ways of living our lives? You know, so those issues weren't even broached. The debate was only 90 minutes. It was an incredibly short debate.
Yeah, and that goes by pretty quick. Yeah.
Oh, it goes by incredibly quick. We didn't even get through the agenda. Titus had expected this to cover all. I mean, he had like 5 or 6 items on the agenda. I think we got to item 3. I mean, of sort of the big sort of, and the agenda was pretty darn biased to begin with, but
did he use? And I know you're writing a paper on this, but did he use the Israel?
He did not. He did not use the Berlin
pedestal.
pedestal.
What I'm talking about? Yeah.
He did not use the Berlin pedestal, but he wanted to bring in the Shasu of Yahweh.
But how does that defend a early date? That's just
he didn't actually bring this in, okay? Because he ran out of time, but he wanted to. He really wanted to bring this in. But I've heard his arguments on this before. At the Solib Temple in Sudan, there's an inscription that talks about the land of the Shasu of Yahu. And what he wants to say is that because this dates to the reign of Amenhotep III, this would have been around the time of the Israelites wandering in the wilderness. And therefore, these are Israelites. He says he tries to make the claim that this is proof of the Israelites wandering in the wilderness, because they're the only ones who could possibly worship Yahweh. Okay, that's his argument. Now, he's wrong. And he's wrong on a lot of levels here. First of all, we can't be sure if Yahu is actually Yahweh. It could be Yahweh. That's a possibility. It could also be Jehu, which is the theophoric Yahweh's theophoric name. But it could also be Yahiwah, which is a root of a theophoric name, which without a theophoric element that we find in the Mari texts. Like, for example, in the Mari text, we find Yahweh Anu. Anu being a Mesopotamian deity. But so this could be the Shasu of Yahweh. So we can't be 100% sure what this means. It doesn't have a theophoric determinative in the name. You know, we do have place names in Egyptian that do have theophoric names, like Pihahirot, Balsafan. Those have theophoric determinatives at the end, so we know those are theophoric names, even though they're place names. We don't have that with the Shasu of Yahu. But there's a biblical problem that I think is even worse, which is we know from Papyrus Harris 3 that the Shasu were located in Edom. And the Amara texts, which are a copy of the Soleb texts, basically placed the Shasu of Yahu in the region of the Edomites, so Edom again. So we know they're in Edom. The problem is Numbers 20 and 21, where Moses tries to seek permission to travel through Edom, is denied permission, and has to go around Edom. The Israelites never enter through Edom or Moab. So Titus is creating a biblical contradiction where there isn't one already. Now, for Titus, this is a sort of a personal, I don't know how you say this, a personal shtick, because he actually went to Sudan. He took a private expedition to Sudan to photograph these inscriptions for himself. So for him, this is a very sort of, I don't know, his baby, but he's creating more problems than he solves by it. So it's just it's something he wanted to do. He wanted it to basically, this was going to be one of his star pieces of evidence today, and he didn't get the chance to use it. And it's probably good for him that he didn't, because it was already bad, and things were going already bad enough as it were.
Is this inscription, does it have any like extended connections to the so-called Kenite hypothesis with the Yahweh origins? And because the latest book on this is by a guy named Robert D. Miller, published last year, called Yahweh, Origin of a Desert God. And I think he's the one that holds to a Kenite hypothesis. But,
well, the Kenite hypothesis is not unreasonable. The whole idea that Yahweh worship originated in Midian. Now, we have to remember, in the late Bronze Age, Midian was much more expansive than it was in the Iron Age. Midian extended from Saudi Arabia through Edom and into the eastern Sinai. So it covered a large swath of territory. And it would have included people such as the Shasu. So it isn't unreasonable, given that you have Moses, at least in the story, going to Midian, encountering Yahweh in Midian, identifying who that God was within, say, the Midianite context, and bring worship of Yahweh back with him to Egypt. So I think that hypothesis is very reasonable. It's further compounded by the circumstantial evidence, say, surrounding Edomite worship itself. Edomite worship is very, very different than what we find in the rest of Canaan. Now, we know that the Edomites worship a god called Cus. We don't know what Cus means. We don't know if that's a name of a god, if it's a title of a god, a job description. Don't know. We don't find any similar cognate in any other Semitic language. It's something unique to Edomite. And we don't have the number of enough text to figure it out. The other thing, too, is Edomites aren't under the same ban that, say, other Canaanites are, like the Moabites, the Ammonites, the Amalekites, etc. For example, a Edomite can integrate into the nation of Israel without waiting 10 generations. That restriction is not placed upon them. We find several instances where Edomites hang around Yahweh shrines and worship there. One of the most famous is the shepherd of Saul, who, well, not a good guy in this. He is hanging around a shrine of Yahweh when David comes and collects Goliath's sword and rats out David. But he's there, stopped by the Lord, and he's there worshiping. So there does seem to be an easy transition between Edomite worship and Yahwistic worship. The Edomites are never accused of idolatry. We don't know why. They're claimed to be a nation of wisdom. You never hear that said of any pagan culture. Even when you get into the New Testament period and the Egemean kingdom, Herod the Great, he converts to Judaism. Just like that. The Herods all become good Yahweh worshippers. In scare quotes. But it just shows you how easily an Edomite can sort of do the switch. So I think there is something to the Kenite hypothesis. I think there's more to the Kenite hypothesis than there is to, say, the idea that Israelites were wandering through Edom. If I was to give...
Oh, sorry, no, finish your point and then...
No, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to ask, does this hypothesis... Is it being promoted by liberal scholars who would it help the Exodus account, or is it sort of like it's neither or? Like, in other words, if it's not true, the Exodus is still true. If it's true, the Exodus is still true.
Yeah, I don't think it matters.
Is it a slight, one way or another. Yeah.
I don't think it really helps one way or the other.
Okay.
But I think it does help make sense of some of the data.
Okay.
Okay, and I do think it's, as I said, a better hypothesis than the idea that the Israelites, forced their way through Edom.
I think that is the point, right? Yeah.
You're going to have to account for the origins of Yahweh somehow. And I don't like Heiser's approach to some of the texts to try to explain that without the Kenite hypothesis. Like, for example, there is one text where it says, and my memory here is not quite that sharp on this text, so forgive me if I butcher this, which is you did not know me by this name. Okay?
You mean
And-
Exodus 6?
Yeah, it's Exodus 6.
6:3, yeah.
Is it 6:3? Let me just pull that up just so I quote it correctly here. Yeah, I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as God Almighty, but by my name, Yahweh, I did not make myself known to them. Now, I understand the reasoning behind Heiser's thing here, which is you can make a sentence into a question without an interrogative marker. That is possible in Hebrew. So it could potentially be read, and I appear to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob as God Almighty, but by my name, Yahweh, did I not make myself known to them? Now, I got some issues with this methodology. Okay. The problem is when you start turning everything into a question, you can invert the meaning. Okay. I want some good warrant before I start doing that, taking something that's a declarative sentence and turning it into an interrogative question. Because, you can do that with you can make some real great mischief with this technique. To use just the plainest example, I'll just go right from Genesis 1:1 here. In the beginning, did God create the heavens and the earth? And was the earth formless and void? And was darkness over the surface of the deep? And was the Spirit of God moving over the surface of the waters? Did God say, "Let there be light"? And was there light? See what happens when you do this?
In other words, rhetorical questions pointing the obvious.
Yeah, that's the thing though. When you turn it into a question, you're negating it.
Right.
This is sort of the inverse of it's a rhetorical question. You're turning a declarative statement into a rhetorical question. And that flips the meaning on its head. You're inverting the meaning, by turning it into a question. So when I look at, say, a standard piece of narrative prose, I want to have good warrant before I assume it's a question. Like, for example, today, when I said, critiqued the Book of Judges, one of the things here was Judges 11:25, where Japheth says to the sons of Ammon, are you better than Balak son of Zippor, king of Moab? Did he ever contend against the sons of Israel? Well, in both of those sentences, there's an interrogative marker. Okay, these were not questions that were just interrogative, declarative statements that were flipped on their head. There's an interrogative marker there. So we know both those statements are intentionally designed to be rhetorical questions. Are you better than Balaam son of Zippor? Well, no. That's the inferred answer. Did he fight or contend against Israel? The implied answer here is no. The actual answer is yes, he did, and he lost badly. He got his butt kicked.
Right.
He got killed on the battlefield.
Now, since you meant, I want you to finish your point because I think this is a prime opportunity for you to like briefly critique, if you can, or if it is a genuine critique. Like, in other words, if you genuinely see there's a problem with Dwayne Garrett's. So I've been reading because through Kriegel publication, he released an Exodus commentary, 2014 published, and I'm sharing my a screenshot of his upgraded defense of Anderson, who Heiser's is relying on with that so-called rhetorical. If you turn it into a rhetorical question, and he's saying here that
By the way, I do agree with Patui here. Okay,
Okay.
I mean, I do accept that there are questions that are not marked with the interrogative marker. I just want warrant. And I don't think that's unreasonable.
Mm.
Okay? So, otherwise, you could do all sorts of nasty, nasty stuff.
Yeah, exactly, like Dr. Evil. Why $1 trillion we can have 1 million? Yeah. Yeah. But I'm sharing my screen. I'm interested to see what you have to say on this. Yeah, he sees it as a chiastic perspective that I'm Yahweh, I made myself known, and my name is Yahweh. So in other words, the parallel here is I made myself known to Abraham as El Shaddai. Then the parallel to that is did I not make myself known to them? And the A and the not A here is like I'm Yahweh, my name is Yahweh. So he's saying it goes beyond Francis Anderson, who in his work he said it can be read as a question.
That is a very strange chiastic structure.
Okay.
Okay, there's this. That's a kind of
This
strange.
is Dwayne Garrett's from his commentary on Exodus.
Yeah, I understand,
Yeah.
but I think the breakdown here is a little odd. Yeah, it's a little strange.
And I think even more strange, all right, you ready for this? Was his interpretation or his translation of Exodus 3:14, the I am that a lot of translations have.
Mm-hmm.
He says, he puts it like this. What do I say to them? God said to Moses, "This is who I am. I am." And he said, "Say this to the Israelites: I am has sent me to you." And in footnote 4950, it's like a massive chunk of like argumentation of why he rendered it that way. But
Yeah, I think it's a bit odd. Have to look here at 14. Here.
Because he's going into like the whole like there's two ways Yahweh's pronounced, Yahweh and Yahweh, and then I mean, I'm
well,
not
yeah,
reading this,
there's actually a very good grammatical reason why that you have, say, Yahweh and Yahi. Okay.
Okay.
And that's because you find, say, in certain Semitic dialects, what's sometimes called a second tense. Okay. And what we have here is sort of a second, let's call it, a second copular tense. It's a second copular tense. And this is sort of kind of what's happening when Hebrew is sort of brought into, say, the Sinai. Is you get various different dialects of Semitic language sort of coming together all at once.
Mm-hmm.
So what you have here is two tenses of the verb to be, the copula. Yeah.
Mm.
So you've got one that is archae, I am, and ahwe, which is the great I am.
Mm-hmm.
This is why, for example, in John 8:58, when Jesus says, it's translated from the Greek, so you don't really get the full force of it, which is Amin, Amin, legohumin, prin Abraham genesta ego eimi. And everyone picks up stones. Okay? Well, if he's saying this in the Hebrew, ego eimi is nothing in the Greek. Nobody cares about that in the Greek.
Right.
Oh, yeah, you are? Sure. Okay, whatever. He's saying this in the Hebrew. If he's saying this, yeah, again, no one cares. That's just, okay, I am. If he says this, ahwe, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, they'll stone you for that.
Right.
Yeah, there's no question they'll stone you for that. Because he's using the different copular tense. This is the second copular tense, which is a substitute for the divine name. Or which is the divine name.
So then, is it true when he says something like over here, he goes into, apparently, when Moses asked the question, what is your name? He's saying that in Egyptian religion, which, by the way, I'm saying that loosely here. Apparently, that's the sort of question.
Hey, get that? He's saying that loosely.
because I could be totally butchering, Egyptian religion here, but because I'm not thinking monolithic, I'm trying not to think that it's all monolithic. Anyway, but the point is, like, apparently that question, what is his name, is a sort of thing that was raised with respect to, say, the Egyptian deities. And so they would say, I am so-and-so, I am so-and-so. But the I am so-and-so is where they put themselves, they're subordinating themselves under a certain power in order to then have that power that they have, supposedly, or something. But the difference is that Yahweh says, I am, not that I am under so-and-so. And that's,
okay.
So in other words, it's a polemic against Egyptian deity stuff.
Well, Egyptian deity stuff, you have to remember that the Egyptian deities had both a public and private name. Okay? The public name is the name that everyone refers to them as. There's a private name, and this goes back to Egyptian metaphysics and superstition, where there's an idea that if you know somebody's private name, you've got the power to control them. Because you've learned something about them that they can use to manipulate you. So a person's or deity's private name was considered to be a big deal. It was part of magical incantation. So if you understood a god's private name, you could manipulate them, you could get them, blackmail them, get them to do what you want. Align their good coming to you, align their bad coming to someone else. So this is part and parcel to Egyptian religion. So when God here is basically telling Moses, hey, when they ask what's his name, God says, here's my private name. For what good it'll do you.
Because I think, but that's exactly Dwayne's argument over here. So he's like, although God will accept the name Yahweh, the title I am set against the pagan context of the question rejects the very idea of a name for God. He's not like Amun or Ta. He cannot be.
Well, Yahweh means he is, by the way.
Okay.
Okay, Yahweh does not mean I am. It's the third person.
Right. Yes, it's a third person. Yeah. But to ask, like he says that down here, he's like, look, to ask his name is to miss the point completely because he's not one of the gods at all. I
Yeah,
just found this
Ahweh-
very interesting. This whole
Ahweh is the first
you know.
person. Yahweh is the third person.
Say that again. Ahweh.
Ahweh.
Ahweh. Okay.
Aleph Hey Vav Hey.
Right.
It's what he uses in Exodus 6.
Oh, and you
When he
say
says,
Yahweh
I
because
am.
it.
You say
Right, and
Yahweh because you're being reverent.
Yes.
He is.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And no, and exactly. If you're a scribe or the writer of like Isaiah or something, like you don't.
Hmm? This is
Yeah,
why you only
Yeah.
find Ahweh used in these couple passages of Exodus,
Which
because it's
then-
God
yeah.
referring about himself to Moses. All the prophets are going to use Yahweh. He is.
Right. So then that has good theological implications when Jesus,
Mhm.
without hesitation, does the first person.
Yes. The
Right.
first person, second tense, copular Hebrew.
Right.
Bam! Here comes the stones.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's a good point. Sweet.
Pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah. I just
That's
thought
very
I'll
interesting
share
stuff.
that with you. That yeah.
Oh. Well,
Sentinel is British. That's interesting. Interesting
Sentinel's
question.
British. Where is it?
Mouthwash.
We
Or maybe Aussie Kiwi, can't tell. Well,
got a super sticker here from Jamie Russell. Thank you very much for the question, or the super sticker. I saw your question earlier. We weren't taking eschatological questions today, but I do appreciate the super chat. Thank you very much. Today it's all only about Exodus and debate. So we're not going to go off of onto the eschatology thing. Ask me Friday if you want that. Okay. Today we're just doing the debate stuff. Okay. And all the fun that encompassed that. And boy, was it fun. I do think your guys are really going to enjoy the debate. It provided it's not too butchered in editing. If it ends up being butchered in editing, well, we got other ways around that
and then
too.
but only you can tell. Like,
Only I can tell, yes, but
yeah.
I got a copy. Should that happen? Kiara and I watched it afterwards. You want to give your opinion on this? Nope, she's reserving opinion. Smart woman.
Hey, already knows my opinion.
She says Faye already knows her opinion. He's got the tape.
Bootleg it.
Director's cut.
Director's cut with commentary.
Release the full cut. It's like a Snyder cut. Yeah, the full cut is what, adding another 2 hours on top of it. So
I missed most of the video. Are we getting the impression that Folk trashed him or no? I think I'll leave that to the opinion of the viewers.
The idea was professional.
The idea here was to be professional, courteous, charitable, all those virtues that I normally lack.
And fellowship, good old fellowship.
Oh yes, fellowship, yes. Yeah, this definitely exemplified fellowship.
Folks returning the popcorn power back to the people. That's exactly right, Tui. Couldn't have said it better than myself. Yeah. Oh, by the way, they're making Dune 2. It's filming right now. The crowd thirsts for blood.
This one.
Ooh. Now this is a good question.
I would like to. I am not going to do it on Derek's channel.
All right, I'll host it.
I will not do it on Myth Vision. He's already asked me to do it. He pissed me off with that whole Josh Bowen bait and switch thing. Will not do it on Myth Vision. But I still wouldn't mind taking a crack at Ron Handel.
What if I was able to get him on? Would you come on?
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Yeah, I would. I'm not afraid of Ron Handel. Not afraid of him in the slightest. Heck, I debate other guys too. You know, I've been trying forever to have a discussion with Josh Bowen. He just keeps running away.
Funny
Send
thing
his
is he.
lackeys.
Sorry.
I was like, his lackeys go after you instead.
Oh yeah, all his lackeys come after me, but he himself will stay far, far away.
Yeah, he's released volume 2 of that Old Testament for Atheists or something, and the handbook of the Old Testament for Atheists. And because of the, let's call it the stink that was caused with volume 1, and hence all that drama, Kip on Derek's channel, like they had a whole big, like a celebration stream, and Kip emphasized for like 10 minutes at the start of the stream that this book, the second volume, went through extensive peer review this time around, even though it's self-published by Bowen. They couldn't emphasize that enough, and but then I still sort of trolled them a little bit during the stream. They were talking about, I think, something to do with like ancient Eastern cosmology or something, and then I quoted from Utma Keel, who, I just quoted him saying that depictions of like the Babylonian world map and all those, depictions of reality is not photographic, it's conceptual, because here they're basically mocking the ancients, like as if they're literally thinking that there's like literally, like the sky is like literally like whatever they draw is like an actual photographic conception of what they think reality is, rather than it being conceptual. Because anyone can draw a conceptual art and not be dimensionally accurate, but the point is you're getting, you're translating what you're seeing in a very like truncated form. And just something as simple as that, a scholar like Uthma Keel, who's like he's like the master of like iconographic stuff, he contradicts Bowen. And I asked Bowen, what do you think of Uthma Keel saying this? And then Bowen just couldn't answer. Like, it's come to a point where I've noticed there's since he's like deconverted, I've noticed a trend towards a very like pompous. He's approaching this in a pompous, arrogant. Like I really liked the guy when I first got to know him, and this is before I got to know you, but I can't help but just see the slippery slope down into like I found my friends within this like atheistic community that all they do is want to just bash. Like, you remember that guy one time? He tried to like throw you through the mud, and I brought you on,
Oh
and
yes.
simultaneously we was live streaming, responding to them. Like that community. It's like
Oz?
why, like
I was there.
yeah, I forget his name, but
I was there.
it's just
I remember that.
It was
Oz, yeah.
Kip, Pat Lowinger, and Oz.
yeah. I forget his name. I think it's Oz, but
It is Oz.
like
Yep.
yeah.
Can't
Yeah.
forget that guy.
Yeah. And then
Wow.
he came on, and the whole thing
Yep.
just backfired. Like
Yep.
Yep.
It was school ground tactics all over again.
mm,
Yep. It just totally backfired on him. Yeah, it was. Oh man, that was a dumpster fire.
hmm.
But the whole idea, like for example, Josh, basically thinking that ancient people have nothing but literalistic kinds of thought, is just really does a disservice to the people of the past.
Hmm.
The people of the past were entirely capable of abstraction. All you have to do is to go to the tombs of Egypt to see this. You go to a lot of the mastabas, 5th, 6th dynasties, and you see this door, false door. Did they really literally think that going from this life to the afterlife involved a door with hinges and a handle?
Don't forget, Indiana Jones literally stepped on a invisible bridge, right? Like
No, it's a metaphor. It's analogical thinking. It's like a door, but it isn't a door.
hmm.
Ancient people were completely capable of abstraction. And this whole idea that these are primitive, stupid people is just does the people of the past a disservice. They weren't stupid.
I mean,
They
just
were
look at
smart in their own time.
yeah, like look at the amount of scholarship going into deciphering what they wrote first and foremost, the language that they're able to come up with.
Mhm.
It's incredible. It is a whole other universe, obviously technologically different than ours, but the point is they had, I mean, even anthropologists will say the human brain like 50 plus thousand years ago is like, if we went back in time and taught them calculus, they had the capacity to understand what we understand today.
Oh, sure they did.
Yeah.
The Pythagorean theorem has been around with us a long time.
Yeah.
At
And their method was quite
at
ingenious
least as
as well.
early as 1400 BC.
Hmm.
At least that early. 900,000 years before Pythagoras.
Yep.
We have it on a cuneiform tablet from Mesopotamia. And they did it even better because they had a base 60 numerical system to begin with. So they didn't even have to do any of the stupid cosine or sines that we do. Their mathematical systems just did it automatically. It was a brilliant system.
Hmm.
I just want to point out here, Mose Salazar left us a $10 super chat, and I want to thank him for that. With a question: Yahweh is a name or divine nominator? I don't know what he means by nominator. Some clarification might be helpful here, because that's not something you see a whole lot in theology or ancient Near Eastern studies. So, it's hard to say if it's a name or if it's something else, but if it's a description or a name, could be either. And just because it's one doesn't mean it's not the other. So unless you have more clarification to this, that's probably the best that I could answer that. Yeah, but getting back to Bowen's approach, and even approach like what's his name now?
Divine designation.
divine designator. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, divine designator. Well, it is a divine designator, but it is also a name. I would answer probably yes. It's both. It's a name and a divine designator. So, without being more specific here, it's hard to say more. Okay? So that's the best I can answer this, given the parameters of the question. Now, who was that? There was that... that skeptic out of North Carolina, that atheist. He's been doing the internet circuit lately. I can't remember his name. He does a lot of New Testament stuff, does a lot of stuff on Gnosticism.
Who? Richard Carrier?
No, not Carrier. More respected than Carrier.
Robert Price?
Ehrman.
Oh,
Bart Ehrman.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been doing the internet circuit lately. And he did a thing on he's at the moment trying to teach on the Exodus. He's got a little private course going on.
I sent you that clip.
Oh yeah, it was bad.
Yeah. Oh man.
I saw his full video where he goes after Titus Kennedy. Now, okay, Titus Kennedy, low-hanging fruit here. Okay? I think after the debate, there's kind of no doubt about that. But Bart Ehrman's performance wasn't exactly golden either. It's like he forgot half the story. One of the things is, Kennedy was talking about the death of the firstborn. And Bart Ehrman goes, well, what's that? Well, what does the death of the firstborn have to do with anything? Like, what, you forgot about the 10th plague? The Passover plague? The plague that takes out all the firstborn in Egypt? It's really stuff like that which really drives me nuts.
I honestly don't know why. Like, Ehrman is requesting big bucks for people to pay to attend his Zoom meetings.
Oh yeah,
where he's going through so apparently he's now a professional or like an expert on, say, now he started with Genesis, now he's doing Exodus, and I'm just like, man, stick to your field of Second Temple, New Testament, early church. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. I think it is pretty crazy, and I think that there's some real issues here with what Ehrman is doing. But I said this, as I said on my last live stream, is, gosh, if you're going to start teaching on something, read the frickin' book. And
consult good secondary scholarship as well.
Well, before you consult secondary scholarship, make sure you have a good handle on the text.
Yeah.
At least make sure you know which events come before other events. What are the main events? Who's involved and why? Who, what, where, when, how? I mean, I think about the scholars of the past, okay? And some of these guys were incredibly talented. C.H. Dodd. Let me give you an example. C.H. Dodd. He did a radio interview on BBC once. And they asked him, I hear you've memorized the whole New Testament in Greek. And he said, well, of course. It's not a big book.
I love the sassy short remarks, Lauren. And today, and you, I remember you even testing me. What's the Ten Commandments? And I got like 6 or 7 correct out of 10. It's like
Yep.
we can't even remember the Ten Commandments, much less
Yeah.
the Greek New Testament. Yeah.
Part of it has just become the because of the way scholarship has become these days, that it has become more important that we can find the sources than that we understand the sources. So source retrieval has taken precedence over comprehension of the source content.
Mm.
And this is a
Keyword
problem.
comprehension.
Yeah, this has become a problem of modern pedagogy. Is that we no longer demand that people understand the material that they're looking up, only that they're able to look it up on mass amounts.
Mm.
So, this is how you get a guy like Titus, who's supposed to be an expert on Joshua and the Judges, who doesn't even know who the combatants are in Judges 11. This sort of keystone verse for his position on the Exodus. Doesn't even know who's involved. Yeah, okay, for the average person, yeah, sure, whatever. Look it up when you need it. But if you're supposed to be an expert on this subject, it would be like me saying, "Oh, the Ark of the Covenant, yeah, that was made of paper mache." You would expect me, as an expert on the Ark of the Covenant, to know what it's made of, how it's made of, what processes went into it, why was it made, what was its purpose, who made it. You mean the Amorites didn't make the Ark of the Covenant? The Phoenicians weren't responsible?
It's like this may be like a low blow to Muslims if Muslims are hearing this, but it's like in the Quran where they thought, well, supposedly Muhammad thought Pharaoh was his name.
Yeah.
Like literally.
I mean, I got asked today, what do you do with Ramses in Genesis? I mean, it's a retrojection.
Oh yeah, where's that in the Joseph story?
It's in the Joseph story. Yeah, it's
Right.
when the Israelites are settled in the land of Goshen, which is the land of Ramses.
Ah, okay, yeah.
It's an identification. It's a epithet. So basically, the writer of Genesis is telling you that Goshen is located in the ancestral homeland of the Ramesside clan.
Right, okay.
This is how we know where Goshen is. This is how we know. This is why we know it's around the city of Avaris. Because that was the ancestral homeland of the Ramessides, was around Avaris. Ramses I was vizier and governor at Avaris before he became pharaoh. It's his ancestral homeland. Horemheb just put him in charge because that was his area of command anyway.
Yes, in Genesis 47:11, Joseph settled his father and brothers, assigning them their own land in the best part of Egypt, and literally in parentheses, in the territory of Ramses.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There's even further confirmation where Joseph says, "Because I want you to be near me." Well, where's Joseph located? He's located in the Hyksos capital. That's a virus.
Right. Yeah.
So we got multiple ways of identifying it.
Wow, I didn't consider that. That's incredible. Like that, Ramses being mentioned in Genesis.
Mm-hmm. But he asked, I was asked today, how do you know that, what do you do with this? And I said, look, Genesis is written at the same time as Exodus, Deuteronomy, Numbers, etc. It's written at the same time. It's using retrojective terms of that period. Why we find the term Pharaoh in Genesis. The term Pharaoh didn't exist prior to Tutmosis III. It's a retrojected term.
Because it's a later redactor.
It's not a redactor. It's not a redaction.
Okay.
There's a difference between a redaction and a retrojection.
Okay.
A retrojection is when a present author uses the terms of today to refer to something in the past.
Okay.
A redaction is when you get a text down the road and then some editor later on changes it.
Okay.
Okay? So there's a mechanical difference here.
Okay.
Okay? It's like if we say today, when we talk about, say, pre-Columbian America. Okay?
We would not have used that phrase if we existed before Columbus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, we wouldn't use that phrase.
They're using that as a sort of like a time marker, so to speak. Like
we are using a retrojective term that is understood today to refer to something in the past.
Right.
It's a literary device.
Right.
That's what a retrojection is. And we see this all through Genesis. Genesis uses a lot of retrojection.
Which then implies that, if we went down the redactor route, now you're putting the text as having a very late composition, hence the Wellhausen stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But according to the proposal you're saying is, no, that means you can actually conservatively put the text back even earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And hence that more, yeah, right.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense when you start looking at through those two lenses. If you look at your text through, say, is it a retrojection or is it a reduction? You can oftentimes say, well, determine, hey, maybe this is not a redaction. Maybe this is a retrojection. And then things start to make a lot more sense. Something, as I said, like Genesis, where they're using these new kingdom terms, Egyptian new kingdom terms, but referring to things that are, say, Middle Kingdom.
So like Dan in Genesis 14, so like Judges says it's Laish. In fact, Judges itself says it used to be called Laish, but then it became Dan. Yeah. So that's a retrojection.
That's a retrojection.
The Genesis text.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. This is often why I see that redaction criticism is unnecessary.
Right. Right.
Because if you are looking at this through, say, a retrojective lens, well, then you're using the sort of this vocabulary that has a certain sort of sits in Laban, and you're basically taking that sits in Laban and saying, okay, maybe this sits in Laban is when it was written. You're giving the text the benefit of the doubt here by assuming it sits in Laban is basically the time area where it was actually written. These things are not errors. They're not anachronisms in the truest sense.
And hence it's pointless to automatically assume, say, early date. When Ramses appears there in Exodus 1,
Mm-hmm.
that then you start assuming an early date when really it's moot. It's pointless. Like, why even jumping to that? Yeah.
Well, we went over this in this discussion today. Is Ramses a redaction? Because the early daters are pretty much forced to go there because of the time period that Ramses appears. It's a 13th century term.
Yep.
It doesn't appear prior to the end of Dynasty 18. It originates with Ramses the First. And it's specific to Ramses the First. We don't find it prior to Ramses the First. Not in any civil documents, not in any administrative documents. You go through Ronca's Persononomen. You can see when these. I mean, that's a fascinating work anyway. Great work, because you can pin down when certain names appear in Egyptian documents. So in the case of, say, Ramses, you pretty much know it's Dynasty 19. There's a couple references during the reign of Horemheb, but that's it. Nothing earlier. And this is a problem for early daters. Because they have to claim redaction or that Ramses is not really Ramses. It's Ramosa. So they got to redact the text to get there.
Right.
Huge problem. I want to point out here we got a super chat. No question from NA Odessa for New Zealand $10. Thank you very much for that. I also got a question here from Mose Salazar for $10. Thank you again for that super chat. He says, the more I read Genesis 1:1, I think it has no revelations such as inference to how the universe works, and I would think that's correct. Only user projections, please comment. It's really, Genesis 1:1 is really basically how God shaped the world to fit within the scheme of sacred space and temple ritual, essentially. There's a huge amount of temple imagery in Genesis 1 and 2. It's unescapable. It's really unescapable. It's really a religious. It's meant to provide a religious message, not a how the universe was created. So it's also why I don't comment on how the universe was created, because the Bible really doesn't. It's outside the scope of the work. So anyway, thank you for the super chat. We just got one also from Jack Ray, who's been very, very generous to us tonight. He gives us another $20 super chat. Thank you so much for this super chat. It appears you are more cheerful now than when you started the stream. Excellent. Well, good company will do that. Excellent. I'm also learning a lot here too. Selfish me. Well, anyone who comes along for the learning ride, welcome aboard.
Yeah, John Goldengay in his very recent Genesis commentary, he briefly says here on Genesis 47, he's like, the name Ramses strictly belongs in a later context. See Exodus 1. The city was named after Ramses II, a long-lived pharaoh of the 13th century. That city indeed lay in the northeast of Egypt and thus helps to make clear the location of Goshen in a later context. There you go.
Yeah, there's really no doubt that the city of Ramses was named after Ramses II.
Right.
We find this in Papyrus Anastasi 3, where it talks about the city of Ramses with its full titulary. So in the text, it's P Usur Ma'are Sete Ben Re Ramasu Mariaman, which is the full titulary of Ramses II. Really cool. There's no doubt. We don't even have to guess this one. Egyptian texts make this clear. And funny enough, in the very, very same text, it also talks. It also uses the synonym, just the city of Ramasu, with no P. They drop the P. So we find this also take place. So Egyptian sources are also not beholden to putting that P or Per Ramses or Per P or Per House of in front of it. They can just refer to it by the name. It's fascinating. This defeats the objection that was done by Redford in his Israel and Canaan book, which I don't recommend.
Oh, okay.
That book did not age well. That book did not age well at all. It was written in 1992, before a whole lot of things were just on the cusp of a lot of archaeological discoveries.
Wow. Okay.
Like the Tel Dan Stela, that sort of thing. And Redford really did lean on the skeptical side of things. He was really one of these memorialists, the cultural memory guys, who said that the Exodus was the result of the Hyksos.
Where does he stand now since those findings?
Oh, he probably still stands on it. He's in his 80s now.
Yeah.
So he's still working.
He's 88.
Yeah, he's still working. He's still teaching. Of course, he's got 2 young kids from his grad student, second wife, but
okay.
He's not going to get out of work. He'll be working till he dies in his office.
Right.
We got a super chat here from Anthony Rougier for $5. Thank you very much for the super chat. Thoughts on Ramessides being Semitic, possibly? Delta origins, their name, etc. I have not seen much on this. Okay. Chances are not. Except maybe sort of through intermarriage. The land grants that were given, especially for these important territories, were given to ancestors of the soldiers who fought for Ahmose I, essentially. When Ahmose liberated Egypt from the Hyksos had owned all the land. They owned all of it. And one of the big sort of bennies that soldiers who fought for Ahmose got was that they would get a piece of land. Of course, the higher rank you are, the bigger the piece of land. So the people who ended up conquering, with the soldiers that helped Ahmose conquer, say the city of Avaris, got large pieces of land in and around that area, and the ancestors of the Ramesside clan got a really nice sweet piece, essentially. Very sweet piece. So it's almost certain that they don't have, say, at least not down the line of the father, Semitic roots. Possibly they might have married Semitic women nearby. That could have happened, because those sort of intermarriages did happen in Egypt. But that would be the only way that there would be any sort of Semitic ancestry that would get into, say, the Ramesside line. But also, too, given the size and the importance of the particular territory that the Ramesside clan had, it's also, too, more likely that they would have married other Egyptians just to maintain their status. Now, with that said, they did live in the area. They did probably were able to speak the Amoritic Semitic dialect just because they were there. It was everywhere. So, this is one of the interesting things about, say, Ramses II, Seti I. They grew up at Avaris. This was their home. Ramses II and Seti I grew up at the palace of Horemheb at Avaris. That was because that was the official residence of the vizier of Lower Egypt. Ramses I, being the vizier, would have lived there. So, they would have probably played with other Semitic kids. They would have had interactions with the Semitic merchants. So they would have gotten to know the language. So in some respects, the Ramessides are a little unique in that they would have been multilingual, unlike, say, most Egyptian kings, who learned Egyptian but weren't forced to learn, say, Akkadian. Now, if you were a scribe, you were. Okay, a lot of scribes were multilingual. But amongst, say, Egyptian nobility, it was a much less common ability. But the Ramessides probably understood at least essential Semitic dialects. So anyway, thank you for the super chat. I hope that answered your question. Okay. Here. Okay. Where were we?
You were talking about Redford, and I searched his name where Hofmeyr brings up his name with a
Redford.
Like a little tongue-in-cheek comment in the 5 Views book. Where when Hofmeyr is speaking about toponyms, place names, and so on, and he's like, Egyptologists tend to treat the toponyms as authentic, whereas lately some minimalist biblical scholars have argued in favor of mythological geography as a way to undermine the historical foundation of the Sojourn Exodus narratives. To such a reading, Redford retorts, quote, "This is a curious resort, for the text does not look like mythology, at least on the definition of the latter as a timeless event set in the world of the gods. The biblical writer certainly thinks he is writing datable history." And so Redford maintains, however, that the geographical terms derive from the 7th century, and because of his influence, a number of Old Testament specialists have followed his lead. But that's what I find interesting, is that even Redford couldn't help but say, look, if you're talking about historicity and so on, this is it's not, it does not look like mythology. But the text, the geographical terms derive from 7th century BC writers.
Oh yeah, that sort of drives me nuts.
There's your little bit of the technicality, right? So-called.
Well, here's the thing. I've always respected Redford's Egyptology. His biblical work stinks. Okay, it stinks. Even when it crosses over into Egyptology, he sort of forgets his Egyptology at that point. Because there's a lot of things he should have remembered from his Egyptology that would have made him reconsider his biblical work if he hadn't been so biased about his biblical work. Like the whole name thing is just, you can go to, say, the late Egyptian Miscellanies and find practically everything in basically from P-Ramses all the way to Rephidim in Egyptian texts of the 19th dynasty. Okay, you find P-Ramses, you find the Yam Suf, You find Pihahirot. You find Goshen. You find Sukkoth. You find Migdol. You find Pithom. And you find Baal Zephon. What's really left? Really?
Mm, mm.
I mean, if all of these are in the late Egyptian miscellanies, which are 19th and 20th dynasty documents, how can you say that all of these are, say, restricted to the 7th century? I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, this was a Tommy Thompson argument. We've gone and looked for Pithom, and Tel Mascuda, we did excavations there, and there's nothing earlier than the 7th century BC. So Pithom didn't exist prior to the 7th century BC. And then you get Jack Holliday from University of Toronto, who goes to Tel Mascuda and does the same sort of survey, and he goes, "Oh yeah, we agree here. Yeah, we excavate Tel Mascuda and we don't find anything there prior to the 7th century there. So Pithom didn't exist prior to the 7th century." Okay, but then you get some people that go, "Hey, okay, Papyrus Anastasi 6 mentions Pithom." Okay, that's not 7th century. That's not 7th century. It's Dynasty 1920. Okay, now you fast forward to 2018, 2020, and now they do some excavations at Tel El Rataba, and lo and behold, they find a dyad of Ramses II with the inscription "Lord of Cheku, Pithom" on the base.
You're practically then pushing it to the very date then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the sort of insanity we're having to deal with. Now, understood, okay, yeah. They did find a Pithom and stela at Tel Mascuda. Okay, that's undeniable. But we also understand now that place names can hop locations, and that seems to be what's happened. Is Tel Rataba was renamed to Pithom during the reign of Ramses II when he built the Ketem fortress and the temple of Atum there. And then in the 7th century, it hops over. The site's abandoned, and they basically move over to Tel El Mascuda, where they continue on from the 7th century until roughly, I think it's the 5th or 4th century, when the site's completely abandoned. So, we find this, like, for example, with Migdol. We understand that there are now multiple Migdols. Eleazar Oren excavated the Roman period Migdol. Now, his Migdol there's nothing beneath that Roman period. But we also know from Egyptian records that there's a Migdol of Seti I, which continues on into a Migdol of Ramses II. And we find a beautiful inscription. The one of Seti I you find at Karnak Temple. The one of Ramses II you find at Medina Habu. Big, beautiful relief of the fortress facade. A beautiful relief. Absolutely fantastic. There's no question what it is. But it's not dating to the Roman period. At the very latest, that inscription is Ramses III. That's Dynasty 20. So, yeah. And the Karnak one's even earlier. Aramaic one's even earlier. I mean, that one dates to Seti the First, Ramses the Second. So there you go, right with the dates. But this is what we have. I mean, we're dealing with people who are, digging the ground, finding an absence of evidence, and go, "Oh, we found nothing. There's nothing." Yeah, what about this text thing? Go on.
No, I was just gonna raise maybe like an equivalent, for anyone, like to translate what you're basically saying. It reminds me of like in Daniel 2. This is just like an off-the-cuff like comparison. You have one of the advisors. His name is Arioch. In Daniel 2 it says, then Arioch informed Daniel, and anyway. But linguistically and even like etymologically, that name Arioch is a very old name. Like apparently, like according to John Collins, it goes back into like Sumerian linguistic stuff, and that makes sense especially in a Babylonian context. So this is one of the pieces of evidence that, at least with respect to chapter 2 of Daniel, you're talking about possibly a 6th century BC composition, even though you have Maccabean critical scholars saying that it's a Maccabean date. But this is it is still a legitimate question. How on earth would the Maccabean author, why would that Maccabean author utilize this very ancient name? Because don't forget, the only way you can get Arioch is by reading cuneiform, and no Maccabean author would be reading cuneiform during the Maccabean period. It's because isn't that the sort of like what you're getting at here? Like, even if you come across terms or names or whatever much later on, and you may not have, say, the original, composition of these names, but the point is, no one could have come up with such a name unless it actually had a genuine, like, it was passed down. Not that it just popped, like in this case, the Roman period, like it didn't just pop some Roman author or whatever, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, names are tricky things anyway. Okay, names are very tricky things. Especially when you start getting into Semitic names. Now, in the case of something like Arioch is very specific to a particular time and place. So you would expect in that case that a cuneiform reader would have had to have encountered it.
But would there be a cuneiform reader during the Maccabean?
Well, not during the Maccabean period per se. I believe that the cuneiform dies out around 500 BC.
And there you go.
Yeah.
So you can't, unless some guy had, like, I don't know, brilliant education somehow and was the only one who could read cuneiform in the, Maccabean period. It's like, yeah. The fact that it's there in Daniel is, yeah.
Yeah, there is, I mean, there's definitely things in Daniel that I think Daniel gets a lot of short shrift from more liberal scholars. And a lot of it comes down to the dislike of, say, the prophecy in Daniel. There's a tendency to either view what's in Daniel as being, well, it's either from God, prophetic from God, or it's ex eventu prophecy. Of course, liberal scholarship tends towards the ex eventu prophecy. But I also don't think that that's the only two options either. Okay? I don't think that's the only two options. And I think that's one of the problems I have with this whole sort of late dating of Daniel is it's resorting to, say, a black and white fallacy. You don't need to go either ex eventu or necessarily the full, say, theistic, prophetic, Kool-Aid, as it were. Okay? Not that I disbelieve that. Keep that in mind. There's also a middle ground between the two, which is prophetic recontextualization. You could basically say that an earlier prophet created prophecy with an eye towards future recontextualization. Written in such a way that somebody in the future will recontextualize it for their own circumstances. We see this in Egyptian prophecy, for example. Prophecies like Ipuwer, Neferti, these are Egyptian prophecies that were written in the Middle Kingdom, but were written in such a way that they were meant to be recontextualized by future readers.
Isn't it the whole Ipuwer, like the patterns of evidence folk? They try and connect that to the
good
plagues
gosh.
or something, and some crazy connection they make with that. Am I tracking that correctly?
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to connect, want to late date Ipuwer to the time of the Exodus, really because it talks about the river turning to blood. Okay, that's the reason. And there's a vague similarity to a couple of the other plagues too, like the sun turning dark. You also find the sun turning dark in, say, Neferti. The fact is that we've got enough historical markers in, say, Ipuwer that prevents it from being dated to Dynasty 18. First of all, the whole language is written in Middle Egyptian. Okay, so it's not written in Late Egyptian. Whereas if it was a New Kingdom document, we would expect Late Egyptian idioms to be used. Now, there are updates in orthography and grammar, but that happens with any copy. Grammar and orthography are an effect of the copyist, and the copy, not the original text. We're blessed with, for example, Neferti. We got 20 copies of Neferti. And we can date them by their orthography. Their orthography and the grammar. But that also lets us know, too, at the same time, that there was an original Middle Kingdom text that all these descended from. So you can't date a text by its grammar and orthography. You have to do it by its idioms. What is the base language? Is it Middle Egyptian? Is it Late Egyptian? Is it Old Kingdom Egyptian? Is it Ptolemaic Egyptian? Each one of these has its own particular idiosyncrasies. And I don't think there's any doubt that Ipuwer is Middle Kingdom. I don't think there's any doubt about this. The question is, when is it in the Middle Kingdom? Is it late 12th? Is it early 13th dynasty? It's still in the Pyramid Age. Because there's a reference in Ipuwer where it says that it's good for men to build pyramids. Well, pyramid building stopped at the end of Dynasty 13, really. Yeah, you have one more pyramid built during the reign of Ahmose I, but he's it. That's it. He's the last pyramid. There's no more pyramids after him. So it's kind of hard to claim that it's good for people to build pyramids when you're not building any more pyramids. Yeah, so yeah, it's some the patterns of evidence does some pretty wacky stuff. By the way, Titus Kennedy was a consultant on that film. He was a content
Oh, wow.
consultant.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, you'll see his credits there. That was my first. That was my first. How do you say this? When he first came on my radar. He first came on my radar when I was critiquing patterns of evidence and wondered who the content consultants were. Yep, he's in the credits.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I'm not sure that's a film I would want to be associated with.
How about thought just came to mind. How about we just do an official Patterns of Evidence Exodus, the David Falk edition, or something, I don't know, something equivalent. Maybe we'll change the name, but
See that?
you fair.
Could be.
No, I was gonna do it.
By the way, I'm also trying to bring on Bryce. Bryce, if you're hearing, I sent you the link. But he lives in my hometown, so. I have white headphones. She has pink.
Oh, that was convincing.
Very convincing. No, they had asked earlier who I was because I hadn't been talking.
She's an honored guest. What more is there?
I enjoy being here.
And we enjoy having you here.
Hoorah!
Ooh. Oh, I don't know. This is getting conspiratorial.
I was just about to say, this is the conspiracy theory I didn't know I needed.
Yes. No. So you can keep dreaming.
Although it would make sense with what I have behind me.
Yeah, it could. Yeah. Is this a special edition live stream? Well, yeah, it is actually. This is the first time we've ever done a
Well, it says
dialogue
77.
with
so-
guests. Well, it's our 77th live stream, but it's our first live stream that we've ever done with real human beings.
What are those?
Me talking to real human beings.
Are you sure I'm human?
Are you sure you're real? Well, we did this. We did this as a. I'm trying out here StreamYard for the first time because when the Titus Kennedy debate comes out next week, and I hope Sean McDowell hasn't lied to me about this. That we're going to have an after party after that live stream where we actually talk about the content when it's all out there and fully revealed. In this live stream, we only Sean McDowell
himself.
his channel. Yeah,
He's
his
gonna bring
channel.
people on.
No, I'm hosting the after party. Okay, he had the debate between me and Titus Kennedy.
Yeah.
He's going to post the debate sometime next week. And after that debate, I'm going to have a after party.
Isn't this like this is like a pre after party right now?
Yep, it is exactly. Here's the thing. I promised we'd be doing a live stream tonight because we thought that this debate was going live, and it didn't. Okay, there was a miscommunication. So we didn't want to disappoint anyone by not having the live stream we promised. So we did it anyway. I hope it will not be edited for Kennedy. Well, we hope not either.
But do you have the right to upload your version?
Oh, I have the right to upload it.
Okay.
I have Kennedy saying that we can do anything we want with it.
Okay. Tui's comment just then is fantastic. I just love.
That's what I got.
Like,
that's what got me.
This is Dr. Falk with his secret knowledge of the debate, slowly feeding salvific gnosis to his subscribers. I just love it. Salvific gnosis. Oh. Yeah.
Well, we have been on for 3 hours and 20 minutes. So we're going to wrap it up pretty soon here because I'm tired.
Dude, it's like 12:20 p.m. and I'm feeling tired. Like, I don't know why. It's not you. It's just, I don't know. I'm just feeling tired.
It's 10:21 p.m. So...
Yeah.
Got $5 super chat from a Lego celebration. Next week, maybe. Next week, after it goes to air, we can talk about this all in detail. And then we're going to do the same format we did tonight here, where we're going to have people come in and talk, and we get to actually discuss the nitty gritty of all this. In grueling detail. Successes, failures, missed opportunities, laugh aloud cows, the whole 9 yards.
Lol cows.
Lol cows.
Yeah.
I mean, we got it's surprised our turnout tonight. We have like 50 concurrent users right now. Viewers. We're doing really well.
Even 3 hours into it?
Even 3 hours into it.
And on a Monday?
On a Monday, yeah. One of the things I always said to my wife is I didn't want to do a second live stream. I mean, because it was just... Well, first of all, kill me, but second of all, it was like, well, who would want to do 2 live streams of us in a week? So I put this up here thinking, okay, I don't have a Monday video because of the debate, so this instead of a Monday video. And we'd think that no one would do super chats or pitch in, or we'd get like 5 subscribers who come in, and we would talk for like a half hour and call it a night and say, yeah, that was fun. 3 hours and 20 minutes later, I'm seeing a pattern here. However, I am going to call it a night at this point. We are going to wrap it up because I'm tired and I want to get a little rest before I have to think about going to work tomorrow.
But as Bryce said, blessings to you, Dr. Falk, for all the work you've done.
Well, thank you.
Definitely very, very edifying, especially in my, in other words, there's one piece of the Bible, it's a niche area, but it's also a grand area, and it's definitely opened my eyes to a lot of things I wouldn't have thought about, so I'd really appreciate your scholarship. So,
well, we do this as a service. This for us, this is what we want to do. We want people to love ancient Egypt. We want people to love the Bible. Okay. We don't think there's a we don't think that one has to be at the sacrifice of the other. You know, we want people to love ancient culture, ancient society, learn about the past, you know, see how this affects their faith, see how this affects their, you know, how they just came to be in this world. You know, if you just learn that, how you're standing on the shoulders of the giants of the past, you know, you've learned something. It's something really, really valuable. So we want to share that excitement, that information, that knowledge with as many people as we can. So this wasn't meant to be a money-making venture. This was meant to be, you know, sharing what we had learned with others. And, you know, anybody who benefits from that is just, you know, that's the reward. That's the reward. You know, we're thrilled anytime this helps someone. You know, it gets them excited and interested. If it gets them back into their Bibles, fantastic. If it gets them reading, you know, Nefertiti or Ipperware, fantastic too. Now they're a more literate human being. You know, we can always benefit from more literate human beings.
Petra, are you hearing that? I don't know why his name came up, but
timing, that was great.
That was wonderful.
So, we really appreciate everyone who just says thank you, because, you know, it's just, you know, we love it. We love hearing this. We love knowing that what we do matters. So I want to thank Jack Ray for one final super chat here in before the end. Very, very much appreciate that. St. Ronan. Wow, 3.5 hours in. Yes, and we are calling it a night because we tired. It's been a long day. Muzzle tov to you also. All right. With that said, we're going to call it a night. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. It was a great night here. Next week, when the debate comes out, we will be doing another one of these. So I want to thank everyone who joined us tonight, and we're so glad you joined us and just became part of the party. So with that said, thank you very much for joining us, and I will see you next time on Ancient Egypt and the Bible. Good night, everyone.